I swear, building up this stream was like trying to build up the moon bog. It just gives you nothing but a headache, it makes you dance out in the night, and I'll probably be abducted screaming by the Fae. Hey there, and welcome to Lore Ramblings. The name's Adam.
I'm Tech Priest.
I'm Imsit, and we are here to finally talk about Delta Green.
I was
It
trying to
has
get
been
them to talk about the chicken restaurant that's apparently getting some interesting DM notes or whatever, but they stopped right before I pressed the button.
all right. Let's fill you in on this one. There's apparently a restaurant in Philadelphia called Tallow that is a chicken restaurant that's doing fried chicken but in beef with beef tallow fries, but no burgers. And it's in a supermarket next to three other chicken places. And the guy went on Twitter and was like going about how he's not making any money. And somebody found the website that the guy has, and they realized that the comment section was open without character limits. So we got the entire script for Star Wars, the B movie, of course. Some absolutely fantastic comments. Let me read this one out because it's genuinely pretty funny. Why would you open this restaurant in a city? Anyone retarded enough to think that beef tallow makes fried chicken healthy is too scared to go into Philadelphia. Move your location 200 miles east, and maybe you will find a clientele with low enough IQ to want this. Written by a business strategist. 200 miles east is the middle of the ocean.
Well, I mean, I guess the deep ones would definitely appreciate such
The
a
deep ones
fine
would
establishment.
appreciate this. There's your selling point.
The greatest fried chicken in Innsmouth. Speaking of which, before we get off topic and turn this into a gag, let's actually cover Delta Green. Specifically, the newer publications that were made by, was it ArcLight Studios? No, not ArcLight.
Arc Dream.
Arc
Arctream
Dream
Publishing.
Publishing, which took over from Pagan Publishing, which got the permissions for a Call of Cthulhu conversion for the modern era. Basically, the idea is, what if you've played Call of Cthulhu? It's an alternate universe, sort of, where the Innsmouth incident sets up the Delta Green Agency, which eventually goes. We'll get into it because this is the setting book for the main part of it, which is the 1990s. The wonderful time of Dixie Cup style logo designs where it's just squiggles. You can bring a box cutter onto an airplane. No, I'm not even kidding. You used to be able to do that. How the hell? Um, and a bunch of other magical 90s times, like leaded gasoline. Delta Green is finally here after 3 years of postponing. We were postponing, not Nito. It's just things kept kind of happening.
You know,
We
Delta
had a
Green,
lot
I
of
have to say, is one of my favorite games. Just flat out, because it does take the premise of Call of Cthulhu and says, what if the U.S. government was handling this?
Speaking of the U.S. government, I think the black helicopters are here, so distract them with tallow and/or interesting facts about the 90s. I apologize. They knew they were coming for me. I'm going to turn this into the next Ruby Ridge.
So this whole thing, I'm sorry, we have to go back to the tallow thing for a second here.
We're going to the towel.
It also apparently is now a crypto pump and dump. Which just says a lot about our the state of our society now. But in any case, Delta Green. Speaking of horrors beyond man-made comprehension.
So, how did you get into Delta Green, Tack?
I stumbled upon Delta Green back in high school by tangent. I actually stumbled on Hunter first, and then Delta Green second. I never got a chance to do more than just sort of look at it because no one in my high school was, of course, interested in playing anything like that. So it was kind of out there.
Yeah, I would say the same. I remember reading the original books. think in high school, and then 2015 they came out with the Kickstarter for the updated edition, and well, it's now to the point I've run such things as Impossible Landscapes. Loved it. Um, it really helps though when you know people who are actually in the federal government.
Oh yeah, no. The main thing with that is that I'd stumbled, of course, on the traditional sort of like pitch image that sometimes happens for Delta Green, which is the discussion of like the one last night at the opera, where they kind of go into the basic summary of the entire thing. One of the things about Delta Green that makes it stand out is we do have to do a little bit of history. Delta Green originates as a part of a fan publication for Call of Cthulhu back in the 90s.
I hinted at that. By the way, it was a false alarm. It was just the shining It's the shining gem hedron salesman. Said he got it from the Antarctic. I don't know. I'm supposed to look at it in the dark, and it was supposed to tell me things.
Though looking at some of the comments here, like the shout out Gallard group, saying they got Delta Green after Buddy from Russia told me it exists.
Yeah, I mean, it's an
Delta
interesting
Green,
idea. And you're talking about how it was a conversion kit for Call of Cthulhu, which, yeah, it was a contemporary conversion which allowed you to essentially play, well, anomaly hunters.
No, the first Delta Green scenario is basically it's a framing device for a Call of Cthulhu scenario, which involves investigation of alien abductions in a small town. The idea behind it is effectively that you're part of a group that is investigating UFOs that is with the government.
Okay, so
That's
more
the
X-Files.
Yes, funnily enough, it was published just before X-Files came out. The original scenario was. The full-on book itself came out in 97 after X-Files had come out, but X-Files was basically the vibe they were going for. There was an interview with one of the founders of Pagan Publishing, the company that was originally behind the Delta Green expansion book, that he was talking about how he was actually trying to get a job with the CIA as an analyst. And then it happened just as the Soviet Union collapsed.
Many such cases.
So he basically he's like, I got the call in, I got my interview, it went really, really well. They were asking me for a follow-up, and then the wall fell.
I'm not kidding about many such cases. Yeah, the FBI and intelligence agencies definitely got an overhaul after that.
They basically had to suddenly freeze their hiring because they have no idea what they're going to need in the next 6 months. So he's like, the second one, they didn't offer to pay for me to fly out there, so I basically knew that the hiring freeze was on. Because the first one, it was a full all expenses paid trip out there. So you kind of get the idea that they were interested in him, and then, well, the wall fell. They don't need another analyst. They just are on all hands on deck. It's a fucking mess right now. No time to bring in anyone new.
But it is time to write about how you need to investigate alien abduction cases.
Yes, he'd always had a sort of an interest in it, and I think he got in contact with some other people that were doing Call of Cthulhu stuff, and that's sort of where Pagan Publishing comes from. Is effectively speaking, this guy, I'm trying to remember his name. I think it's Tynes? Scott Tynes?
John Scott Tynes.
Yes.
John Scott Tynes, thank you. I think this is the guy that tried to get into the CIA. Dennis Detweiler, no. I don't think so. Oh, I love you, Dennis. I really do. I also think you maybe need to talk to a therapist.
I have heard him described as the Harlan Ellison of the RPG creator community, and
it's accurate.
Yeah, that's definitely the case.
That's
the
accurate.
Other guy who was creating this, Adam Scott Glancy.
It was either Glancy or Tynes that was with the CIA. I'd have to listen to that interview again. I just know that it was one of the three founders, and I know it was definitely not Dennis. So the next step that happened is that back in this sort of era, the license for Call of Cthulhu was sort of nebulous because Chaosium was under some strain, I guess is the best way to put it. By this
The
point,
rights were
both
distributed in a few other spots. It's also the matter that you're working with the Lovecraft estate. Let's be blunt, a lot of that is public domain.
a lot of it's public domain, but a lot of the stuff that they're working with in publishing is related to Sandy Peterson's work, and
And then on top of that, you have the
Sandy
matter
Peterson's no
of
longer with the company. Neither is good old Greg Stafford, one of the original founders of Chaosium. The management there that's running the company isn't very good because the rights are everywhere. There's disputes over printings. There's just all this.
proprietary
They have a
rights of the D
dedicated.
percentile system. I think this is why
Oh,
Delta Green eventually uses something like the gumshoes. Like I've heard
No,
gumshoes
Delta
gets
Green
used at
does
one
not.
point.
No,
Oh,
no.
I'm confusing it with the
Gumshoes is
British
completely
flag
different.
because there's
Well,
Fall
no,
of Delta
no.
Green too.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
that's
Fall.
completely different.
That's a
We'll get to
That's a
that in a
different one.
second here. We'll get to that in a second here. So the main split that happens is that you have to understand that Chaosium has its own rule set, which is the BRP system, which is what was used for Call of Cthulhu, for RuneQuest back in the day, and a few other systems. The SRD hadn't been fully released to the public yet, but there was, in fact, a BRP just generic floating around. And the licensing rights for Call of Cthulhu were very, very generous. So if you were a fan of Call of Cthulhu, you could, in fact, start a small publishing company and publish your own scenarios as long as they had to use the main book and you weren't publishing that information. This is where pagan publishing sort of gets its start. They made a fanzine, The Unspeakable Oath, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah,
Uh,
they did a bunch of fanzines before they finished the whole book.
yes, and the
Actually,
fanzines
it's
had, of
because of this
course,
permissiveness, if I remember right. This is also why Call of Cthulhu, out of any Western publishing, did so well in Japan. The
oh
rights were
yes,
so
100%.
open.
Call of Cthulhu was always secondary in Japan to a lot of other things. There
Mainly
was,
anything with D6 systems, because in
Sword
Japan,
World,
yeah.
D6 systems were more popular in Japan.
Sword
RuneQuest
World
was
is
more popular in
actually
Japan
interesting
for a
too,
while.
but we're talking about Delta Green, so let's not.
And yeah, well, let's not.
And
I
let's
should note that
let's
it took a goddamn anime for Call of Cthulhu to really make a big sudden explosion again in the Japanese population, popular like culture, though. Uh,
but we
something
sh
Jarl said. Anyway,
no.
back to Delta Green. Back to Delta Green. The publication originally comes out in '97, and it focuses around this concept which they'd been building for a while. Of they went out, they bought the copy of William Cooper's Behold the Pale Horse. They went and looked at some of this conspiracy stuff that was going on in the '90s, and they went and they said, "Okay, we've got everything we need to ever run a game of Call of Cthulhu forever." Because the by '97, this is already past Ruby Ridge and Waco. There is a genuine. This is also after Oklahoma City. There is a real tension in the world about like what's happening in the United States now that communism's gone.
And
The
no
big enemy's
kidding,
gone.
I actually have several articles about that, so let's show off a couple involving this. So reminder that Waco is the product of the ATF overreaching and fucking up. I'm not even kidding. The Branch
They
Davidian
made they
standoff got as bad as it
but
did because of that.
part of
And
the
if there
reason for that is related to the fact that they needed a win. Um,
yeah and
And
and if there's one thing that the United States
the
government
warrant was
or
also
the United
invalid
yeah,
for Ruby Ridge's case too. That's another one.
but the thing, if there's one thing that throughout the entire history has gotten a lot of Americans to do a lot of dumb shit, it is the overreach of, or the fear of the overreach of federal authority.
now,
Case in point, the founding of the country.
part of this
You forget the
is
Whiskey Rebellion, which did the opposite.
Well,
the Whiskey Rebellion convinced that there needed to be a central federal authority. Yes.
Oh no!
Anyway,
It also was against the government, and Washington proceeded to immediately bitch smack them into death.
Well, yes, because they were rebelling against
But
the government.
Correct.
you have this
The
paranoia going on about the increase of government authority. You
There's
also
also
have a
conspiracy
growing
theories around this time.
you have a growing
as I
budding
was mentioning
community.
before, because I need to sort of just to talk about this because you do not have Delta Green without the conspiracy attitude of the 90s. And there is a specific person that is related to a ton of it. His fingerprints are all over Delta Green in terms of like what is the main plot line. The main plot line is related to some organizations that he talks about. The main bad guy's Wet Work Squad is a direct reference to something in his writings. And this is, again, as I said, Bill Cooper, Behold a Pale Horse. The quintessential conspiracy theory volume. Bill Cooper, almost every major mainline conspiracy theory in the United States today, you can go back and you can find it published inside of Bill Cooper's Behold a Pale Horse. It has everything from aliens to secret governments to the FEMA death camps to the chemtrail stuff to
Classic
aliens in
NWO,
Roswell,
population control,
New World
the
Order.
black
Yeah,
helicopters.
all of it.
AIDS,
All of it.
JFK.
All of it is inside of that book. And it became incredibly influential to the point where it was one of the books that was read by Timothy McVeigh quite a bit, along with listening to Bill Cooper's radio show. Yeah. So you can kind of see what the origin point for Delta Green thus becomes is this expansion of this already existing conspiracy culture in the United States that people were taking notice of due to incidents like Ruby Ridge, Waco, the Oklahoma City bombings, etc.
Natural
Then
evolution of the
transmitted.
alien UFO conspiracies, which were a thing since essentially the advent of the jet plane. The
Yes, though
concept of
usually they were not.
LGMs, little goblins that would stalk people in their
A-
houses.
yeah. Add on to
They-
this. Add on to this the Satanic Panic.
Yep.
Actual underground cults of pedophiles.
You also have the
Manson family
1980s.
murders.
You also have the 1980s rise of interesting gore movies, like the whole
Serial
cinema
well,
nasties became a thing during this
serial
time.
There's also
killers.
the rise of neo-Nazi movements in the United States during the 80s as well that has an influence on this.
So you have a lot of fun things going on.
And
So
last
there's
but
a lot
not
of
least,
things
there's
going
good
on.
old-fashioned Able Archer, which was probably the closest we ever got to World War III since the Cuba Missile
Paranoia.
Crisis.
Yes, there's a lot
I
of
would say this:
paranoia.
with the Cold War thawing, finally getting access to information of what was going on.
Oh yeah, for
This is
about a
where we get
decade
the
after this, the Soviet Union released its archives. Russia was open about
we get
that.
revelations about
What
pretty
happened to
much,
Hitler's body, for example? They burned it.
but also in the U.S. stuff like MK Ultra. I think we had known about, but like I have some more information. Tuskegee Airmen, or the Tuskegee
Now,
Experiment.
the Tuskegee experiment, not the Tuskegee
Yeah,
Airmen.
yeah.
Unrelated. The
And
general
all things like NRO Delta, the
NRO
Black Helicopter.
Delta, that's conspiracy stuff. The NRO is already a shady organization that was not very well known or understood by the general public because what they were doing was top secret at the time, which is spy satellite work. So, of course, it leads to a lot of conspiracies when you have bases where you can't go to that are guarded because, of course, they have to be guarded. You're dealing with high technical, secret stuff like actual recovered canisters of film and development and
But like,
analysts.
think about all this though. It does a little bit off topic, but makes sense. This explains why Half-Life has the HECU
Yes,
and why there's the G-Man.
yes, this is the same culture that leads to Half-Life. And the same sort of drawing from the same well of information, just in different directions.
And so
They
the guys
published
that
and they released
yeah,
this
the guy
source book, Delta Green, which Delta Green, at its very inception, starts out as basically a better reason for why all of your investigators are about to go get themselves killed than almost any other has existed for Call of Cthulhu.
Well, yes and no.
You have to
Basically, they hire a very eclectic group of people to cover for investigations. It makes it a lot easier to explain how a mailman who might have gotten correspondence that might not have been something needed, a government agent, and a crazy fisherman, because you have to go out into the ocean to deal with some old one activity out there. It
It's more
it explains that.
it explains it. It gives you an organic reason to be there, and an even more organic reason not to just leave. Like that's one of the big problems in
Because
some
it's your
Call of Cthulhu
career.
scenarios.
Yeah.
Is like, why the fuck don't you just go? It's that old refrain in the fucking horror movies of like, why don't you just leave the house? Like, house
Some
is
of it
haunted. Just
is
fucking
supposed to
go.
be curious. You're supposed to try to play them at least somewhat curious. You're also
Yeah,
supposed to kind of, and here's something that I kind of take from a little bit of another series of items that kind of later on became coinciding, the SCP Foundation. You could just play it as a cognito hazard where you're kind of just driven to, like any escape that you think
right.
of,
I mean,
it
that's
just
the
Yeah.
classic Lovecraftian stuff. But the difference is sort of like it's taking it basically
but
goes
this
and it
gives a
says,
concrete reason. Like, well, what if I
right,
just willpower my way out of it? It's your job. You literally can't leave.
like why would like you still have to deal with this? It's your job. There's national security stakes on uh
Because
involved.
if you are part of national security, you are there because you want to protect the country. Doesn't matter politics
There's
or
a
anything like that.
motivation.
You care.
Yeah,
You care.
And again, the way
and
Delta Green works is they have a lot of contractors, a lot of people who do not really wet works, but basically they're brought on for expertise. Again, that allows you to kind of change your team based on that.
friendlies. We'll get to that. But
But we
the
should start. I think we now have a good picture of like what Delta Green is, how it comes
the
about.
original release in the 90s,
Yeah.
there's more source books that come out before and after 9/11, which are very different time periods. Most of us were really too young to remember the changes that 9/11 did, but the impact on the national psyche was immense.
To give you an
And the
idea, some interesting things you could do is originally you usually were not going to be brought to the TSA. In fact, actually, you can on board within probably about a half hour at most. It was
yes,
really easy. There were almost no checks, and they didn't check your bags that often, if at all. Which is why, disturbingly, you could quite easily get things like box cutters and put them into bags, and no one would give a shit. No one checked what type of liquid you had in your canisters. It was really easy to just do whatever the hell you wanted. By the way, this is also the period that gasoline still had lead in it, at least the ass end of it. You would still find some pump stations that had it, because some cars just needed leaded. I'm not even kidding. That's another side effect of the 90s. Unleaded
But
gasoline went away.
then then
Well, leaded gasoline went away.
but then Delta Green, like, they published some source books, but it
Oh,
kind of
one other thing. This is
yes.
the era of you actually had to still kind of go to a library and do research. Still, the internet was a thing. ARPANET and other infrastructure was there, but you had to use modems, which I imagine most of you are at least semi-familiar with this. But basically, you had to use hard landlines in your phone, and those things were slow and took up your telephone. And
Yep.
the
And so if somebody had
blazing
a call,
fast ones were usually 56K. The average internet is about 10 times faster than that. Well, actually 100 times faster than that now.
but the Delta Green as a sort of fan base did survive actually through the internet. There's and it's still ongoing, mailing list of people communicating
yes,
and organizing new scenarios and
Because
interacting with each other,
it's
interacting
very
with
satisfying niche, because
developers.
sometimes you don't want to play academic McScience man who has his good old fashioned Webley revolver to fight the entities. Sometimes you want to take an RPG to a Shoggoth's face.
And then
and
2015, they get the Kickstarter
they do a
for the new
Kickstarter. They make it.
edition.
Basically, they reach an agreement because at this point, Chaosium has been bought out by Stafford and Peterson once again, and they are merging it with one of Stafford's companies. And so stuff like Delta Green, which was sort of left in limbo because it's not first party material, but it has a following, it has a niche, and they want to publish it again. Because why not? Like, if you're getting a new version of Call of Cthulhu that's coming out, why not update Delta Green to this new edition?
Because by this point, we're dealing with essentially it's the same time period as the revised edition of the World of Darkness. It kind of needs a bit of a facelift.
Well, it's that there hasn't been a new edition of Call of Cthulhu in about a decade, and there hasn't been a new release for
No,
Delta Green in
that's what I
about
mean.
5 years.
The last time they were out was around the time of the revised edition of the World of Darkness. game design changed in that decade.
And
No, that was the
so
original publishing because Delta
yeah.
Green had released material all the way up to like 2010.
and
Fair
so
enough.
they get the new edition, which updates it to more modern times. But in addition, they had made a book for people who want to explore the 90s era using the new
This came
updated
later.
rules.
To give you a summary, though, basically they reached an agreement with Chaosium about the publishing rights.
No.
Because
Now is the big time. Be right back. I have to deal
Well,
with some
we'll
entities.
continue on.
yes, so they reach an agreement with the publishing rights for with Chaosium because you have the issue of, technically speaking, this was published under a license for a company that just got bought out, and that it is using a system that is legally owned by another person, and they kind of want to centralize fan content more. Chaosium is starting to come up with this idea of like the Miskatonic repository. Basically a place where you can submit fan-created adventures under restrictions.
Yeah, same
that are
thing like
not-
the Storyteller's Vault for World of Darkness.
Yes. And there's like some agreements with like publishing rights and all this, and they eventually just decide, quite simply, that, well, we could do a licensing thing, or we could not. And so they went, how much of this system do we have to change for it to be legally distinct? So that we're not stepping on each other's toes. We're not planning on licensing this system out for general use. So no need to worry about that. It's a generic D100 system already. And you're going in a different direction for the Call of Cthulhu system. Basically, there's a handshake deal, as far as I understand it, done where Delta Green gets its own take on the BRP that's legally distinctive, and Chaosium lets them keep the name and the publishing rights to it, as long as they don't use Call of Cthulhu directly and they can't use the names and trademarks from Call of Cthulhu. Simple enough.
And thus, the new Delta Green was born.
Thus, the new Delta Green. And the
Quite
new
quite
Delta
literally in
Green,
this case, because it changed from 90s style to being where it's more your conspiracy within the government to being an actual literal deep state within the government.
they change it and update it from how it was in 2010, because you've got to understand, by 2015, a lot of stuff has changed from where they once were. The general desire for people that are writing and running this sort of stuff is that this Delta Green is very firmly a modern setting. Meanwhile, Cthulhu is much more situated around the classic era, the turn of the century of the 1900s to about 1950 or so is usually where I would say like the vast majority of material written for Call of Cthulhu is set. Delta Green is not that. Delta Green is, from its get-go, very modern. It was modern at the time it was written. It was focused around the modern setting. It's not to say that you couldn't do Delta Green in the modern era. It's just there wasn't like as much direct support for it.
They did later do, if you want to do in the 60s, the fall of Delta Green using the gumshoe system, but
Yes, the gumshoe
it-
system is another.
it's a different kind of
this.
format.
Yeah, the gumshoe system is another part of this weird, strange tale that includes like a bunch of other crazy shit going on. Basically put, there's a thing called Trail of Cthulhu that uses the gumshoe system that is not Call of Cthulhu, but basically the same sort of style of game, just using the investigative system of the gumshoes.
There's like a Pulp Cthulhu, there's a whole bunch of stuff, but suffice it to say that this take on Delta Green, not just revamping, but it does focus on the modern, and I'd say one way to, it really does focus on modern issues. Talks a lot about government surveillance, talks about, there's plenty of published scenarios about operations overseas. In fact,
Right.
one where that directly involves the takeover of Mosul from ISIS back in 2016.
Right. There's
Which
a lot.
is the other thing. If you were to say, yes, we're doing an RPG about ISIS. Not many people, I think, could handle it well. I have to give it to the writers of Delta Green are very good at what they do. The way they handle language.
To give you an idea here, Delta Green changes from that 2010 relationship to the 2012, where the design ethos of the game has changed from we're completely out of power to you're now with the government and here to help, and it's not going to go well.
It really does not shy away the fact that technically, while you are saving the world and the country, you are in fact a domestic terrorist, utilizing government assets illegally to murder and destroy the lives of American citizens.
With government funding, by the way.
With government funding. You are 100% the deep state that every conspiracy is afraid of. You are a criminal. And if you are caught, you will not receive any help. You will be thrown to the wolves.
Yep.
And then the other thing is, unlike traditional Call of Cthulhu, where it's fighting estranged cultists or remote communities or mad scientists. No. Best example I can do is just go fully into it. The scenario God's Teeth. You are told to
Let's
assemble
not
your
spoil
team.
God's Teeth.
Well, basically, you are to eliminate a people running an orphanage, and I will leave it at that.
God's Teeth is a definite mood.
This is not the game where you are going to missile Cthulhu to death. This is a game where you will go slowly or quickly insane after seeing the corpses of drug infused humans that no longer look human, no longer smell human.
The best way to describe this attitude that the new version of Delta Green has is that it's just as cynical as the one that was written in the 90s, but from a different perspective. We are now in the panopticon. The world is under constant observation, including you. There is a lot of new tools and new abilities that you didn't have before, and none of it fucking matters. As it turns out, just because Delta Green has become a professional government agency doesn't mean that they aren't just as fucked.
Oh, they became professional again? Because they kind of went rogue for a while. By
Yes,
the
they
way,
did.
apologies for that.
We'll cover that whole thing here in a second, but
it turns out that those nice government agent guys, I think they were meat suits puppeted by fungi from Yugoth. I don't know what the connotations of that is, but you know.
Like, this question is, did they glow in the dark?
Yeah, that's why it took so long. I had to run them over with my car. No, I genuinely had to, especially since they were equipped with birds, and those are not real.
Correct. So, I think though, now that we have a good understanding of like where Delta Green is, where it was from, we should start with what was it in the 90s? And starting on page 10 will give us what agents are.
90s Delta Green is very different.
By the way, I also like the old style. This type of paper you don't see that often anymore. This dossier style paper.
Yeah. Delta Green in the 90s you have to understand that it's been 30 years since the original publication of Delta Green, almost. It's like 25 years now. When this was published back in
97.
Yeah, so it would have been 2022, so about 25 years when this was published.
And that is a lot of things that changed in between. This is as different as the Edwardian period as it is to the Roaring 20s.
Yes, and that's where this book comes into play, is that the history of Delta Green, and I actually have a hardback version of this because this would have been published in 2022, so 25 years.
I could have swore this one was published in 2024.
Nope, 2022.
Ah, okay. Might be confusing with another book.
So as they state, typical Delta Green agent is a federal employee in their mid to late 30s, most likely law enforcement, with half of them coming from the FBI, CIA, and DEA.
Yeah.
Fewer than 24 agents do not carry a badge and gun as part of their day-to-day work.
And honestly, though, I think that the best introduction is, in fact, the introduction on pages 6 and 7. Go read those in your own time.
As for friendlies, you can also take the role of them. They are contracted out allies, or those that are not part of the deeper agency, those who don't have any clue. These are the people that are hired on, usually under false pretenses.
These are your regular investigators, to be quite honest.
Basically, a good way to put it is that these people are either your regular Call of Cthulhu investigators to some degree, but they're more likely the people who have seen enough to be dangerous in one way or another.
Yeah, things kind of change a bit when let's say you worked as an orderly in a hospital, and you had these guys in balaclavas and wearing heavy equipment going down to the morgue. You heard unearthly shrieks, and then you find out that the doctor, the head thanatologist there, has been arrested for crimes against humanity. You probably know a little too much, so you're probably hired on.
You're not hired? You're not hired.
You're pressured on.
No, you're not. You don't even know shit most of the time. That's one of the best things about Delta Green.
They point this out on page 12. Perhaps as many as 15% of Delta Green's agents are at any given time still think the organization has official sanction.
Ah. Yeah,
basically, 1 in 10
I have
of
not
the
played
people
this
that are
game as
actually
much, so
that are
this
actually
is more their
like
thing.
1 in 10 of the people that are actually in the organization think this is still legitimate. It eventually comes out that it's not, and we'll get into why later in the book. But in general, the major problem that they have is that friendlies aren't really agents. Friendlies are just people that they have connections to. Most of these people have no idea of who that they are working with. They think, if they do know, that Delta Green is some sort of like FBI task force. For example.
That's where my confusion is. Since I've never been able to run a campaign or play in a campaign, I'm a little bit spurious on this. I've only really played Call of Cthulhu. I've never had a chance to touch Delta Green.
Friendlies are there because of one important thing: the cell structure.
They're the Delta Green of
this the Delta Green of this era operated under a cell structure, A through Z. You had contacts to the cells, to the left of you and to the right of you, may have an inkling about other cells, and your handlers have connections to the top cell, cell A.
You know what I
Cells
just
are made out of
realized?
3 people,
No, hear
and
me
then all
out.
the other
Hear me out.
friendlies.
You know what I just realized? Delta Green is honoring the time-honored tradition of the pyramid scheme. Recruit your friends, recruit your family. Join us to fight incomprehensible horrors from beyond the stars. Payment is variable.
No, you're not getting
there
paid.
is the idea that Delta Green could be a cult. But
that's a bit of a different tangent. Yeah. No, what I would talk about here, and what I would think about with this, and it's very simple, is that Delta Green in this era has the cell. They are a terrorist organization. They operate in a cell structure. There is zero doubt in my mind that they are effectively domestic terrorists.
I mean, they
They
don't refuse
violate.
to the government. They have equipment that they should not have their hands on. They violate
They've
ordinances.
stolen most of that. They violate plenty of laws on the
They have,
regular. They
on
do
more
not
than one
abide by due
occasion,
process.
left bodies.
Oh, quite often.
Okay, this is very different from the thing I was thinking this was being.
Welcome to Delta Green.
No, I mean, like, the organization's kind of different from what I was thinking in my head, which is more like along the lines of Men in Black or the
Well,
X-Files.
this is the 90s. This is not what happens when they actually get somewhat federal sanctioning.
Again, because apparently they used to have some.
Yeah, they did. And before we, so either we can go into like the history of actual crime, like the actual federal law enforcement, or we could continue talking about the cell.
To give you an idea, the cell structure is very simple. The recruiting is also very simple, is that they find somebody that they think can handle the truth. They give them a little bit to get their feet wet. And if they meet it, good. If not, they never talk to them again. Because being discovered is a bad thing. Once you're in, though, you're in. And if you know too much, you know too much, and you are probably going to understand that, well, you're never going to be outright threatened with, we will disappear you. You know enough to know that they know where the bodies are buried. And yeah, they will happily end your life as you know it,
By the way, this
at the
is
very
just
least.
an average murder map I'm seeing here for the cells. Not the best looking
Yes.
murder map either. It's kind of
So
mediocre.
the cell structure is very simple. Everybody in the cell has a code name related to the letter of the cell. It
Like, for
doesn't matter
instance,
what it is.
F cell knows F cell is Fred, Frank, and Francis.
And then has some friendlies that are associated with F cell. They might know those that are in another cell, but F cell never directly talks to say H cell. They only communicate with H cell through their through other kind of links. Usually they don't do directly. Everyone's supposed to have a connection between up and down the chain as best they can. This way, that if one of the cell gets compromised, it's much easier to find out. They have a whole section about what the agents know. For example, F cell here knows about E cell's code names and about G cell's code names. They don't know anything actually about H cell or I cell officially. They might find some stuff out or be tasked to work with them at some point, and that might happen. But otherwise, they don't know anything. H cell, for example, F cell here would know a bit about G cell and how to get in touch with them. Same thing with E cell. They're not going to know about A cell directly. They know that A cell exists. They know that it's up the chain, and that's about it. Hell,
Also,
they don't even know if there's not more than one D cell or C cell.
yeah. Also, Nicholas, do you get paid for being in Delta Green?
No.
No.
No, you don't.
This you
Even-
work your
even
regular
in-
government you work your regular government job, and when you get the call, you say you have a night at the opera, and you leave. And you do your
Basically
job,
put.
and you
Th- th-
come
this
back
is
like
actually-
nothing ever happened.
I'm gonna be honest, this is pretty different from what I was envisioning. Like I said, I never really had a chance to play it. I just knew
Yes,
about it.
Delta Green was never about being a official card-carrying member of an agency named Delta Green, because that defeats the purpose and the point. This is a secret organization, and it has always been a secret organization. Delta Green is originally a reference to the clearance that these people were authorized to have, and the signal marked on official
Oh.
files
Yep.
of what their of people that they knew could be trusted for that were in the know. The green triangle, a Delta Green. It was the clearance. So officially, they've had about 36 names, and that's before the entire thing is disbanded after an operation in Cambodia goes bad in '69. to give you perspective here, when they're talking about the federal law enforcement and they go through all this, a lot of what they're talking about is somewhat relevant to how Delta Green operates, because Delta Green
What-
starts
Like
out.
like what I would want to bring up first, and then make a point here, is that while it may seem like all the agencies in the federal government kind of work together, they don't.
No, they
They have
don't. It's very rare that they directly work with one another for very good reasons.
even
a lot of
today.
it Yeah, a lot of it is that, for example, the FBI and the CIA have completely different mission parameters and profiles, and even legal responsibilities
As
and
well as
abilities.
fields. I mean, shit. Like a great example would just be the difference between a local sheriff and the state police
That,
or
They
a
that is the
actually
other.
have
federal police,
there's
because
a
there is a
there's
federal.
a
That's
chart that they have about
that
that in Delta Green in the main book, where they go
Yeah.
over like what is the difference between local law enforcement, state law enforcement, tribal law enforcement, and federal law enforcement.
that is the point. There are 4 types of law enforcement with differing responsibilities and different procedures. Like, for instance,
And
if
different
a crime,
jurisdiction.
as soon as a crime happens over state lines, the FBI or the marshals can get involved. But
Yes,
if it doesn't, if nothing in the case connects to state lines, you
they
cannot go
can't
in
really
there
do
as a
shit.
federal enforcement.
There are exceptions. Now, this is where stuff like the DEA comes in, because the DEA theoretically has jurisdiction over any crime involving narcotics. If there is a tangential relation to narcotics, the DEA can be brought in or can overtake the case. They don't like to do this, however, because first off, if you're doing that with everybody that pull over a little bit of weed, you're wasting your time. So usually they're using this sort of authority to go after pushers, dealers, things like that, and to coordinate with locals because they need to have local law enforcement because they don't have the bodies.
Well, not only do they not have the bodies, let's be honest, different states have different ordinances and codes. If you try to
Yep.
pin some guy, like for example, you could pin a guy on distributing drugs, but if they only have X amount of ounces of Y amount of drugs, they might not even go to the slammer. They might actually walk free. And you wouldn't
They
know
might
that
literally,
because you're a
they
federal
might get them.
agent.
You would have to know that as a federal agent.
No, because it's due to
Be-
state law laxening on that. Or alternatively, they have a card that specifically allows them to hold on to that because of medicinal needs.
Exactly. Well, that's what
Again,
I mean by there's federal enforcement versus non-enforcement
like
versus
let's say
all
you're a
this.
Tennessee cop.
It's a mess.
If you record
But
someone, you might you might not be able to use it because that state might be a one-party consent state. No, two-party consent state where both sides have to say I consent.
Consent or recording for it to be legally admissible. Yes.
and you might think, well, this is bad and ineffective.
That's the
There
point.
might be a good reason for this.
No, that is the point because
Yeah,
if
case in point, our federal law enforcement's activities in the 1960s and 70s.
The Hoover era, basically from start to finish. So, fun fact about the Hoover era, J. Edgar Hoover was a fucking conspiratorial bastard who didn't trust anyone. And on top of that, viewed himself as basically having way more authority than he legally ever did. The amount of shit that the Hoover era FBI pulled is insane. And a lot of it.
And this is why the Delta Green movement here does a lot of illegal stuff that honestly the FBI has already done.
Like,
Yeah.
that's one of the fun bits about this. They even talk about it. For example, the family jewels of the CIA. The CIA had been active for 20 years. There is a new CIA director comes in 74. His first order of business is basically the following. Because he wants to clean up the CIA, because he knows that there's shit going down
The
that shouldn't
FBI.
be.
Do you want to
CIA.
know some
Who's the
very
CIA?
briefly some
Yeah.
very fun quick examples I can list? Hoover initially started by beating the living shit out of the mafia, and then he went full omerta, which allowed them to resurge and revive during the 60s and 70s.
Well,
A lot of it was because his focus went off of
Yeah.
the mafia and onto the damn dirty commies.
and
Also
who
black
obviously
people.
are
and,
tied.
and also because technically the FBI and the mafia did work to defend our eastern seaboard from Nazi sabotage.
I'm not even kidding.
Yes.
Hoover had a Pepe Sylvia tier murder map just on Martin Luther King. If I recall correctly, he also
He thought
eventually
that he was a Soviet agent,
not only that, but didn't
which
he
is
also have a
wild.
guy?
Because remember, the Soviets are clearly trying to get us to soften race relations
Well, there's also
and end
the
racism
I
in this
just want to point
country.
out that he also had plans to ruin him on every level possible. He also had assassination and murder plans for him, and they
He
might have
sent a
gone.
they sent a suicide letter, basically saying, "We know your secret, King. We know that you are engaging in all these vile orgies
I'm
with
not.
men
They're
and
not even
women.
kidding.
Kill
Let
yourself."
me get the Martin Luther King letter. Here it is.
This is an actual letter
It's
that was sent.
Look into your heart. You know you are a complete fraud and a great liability to all of us. And us. White people in this country have had enough frauds of their own, but I am sure they don't have one at this
it
time
is
anywhere near
this
your
letter is
equal. You are no
this
clergyman and you know it. You are a colossal fraud and evil and vicious. Like it is
it is
amazing.
so blatantly written by a fucking like Edgar Hoover while he's jerking off in women's clothing. Like
There is
it
also
is.
then there's also COINTELPRO, in
Oh
which they
yeah,
did
this is a fun
infiltrate
one.
both far left and far right organizations to
Mostly far
disrupt them.
left.
Mostly, but well, we can
Mostly far left because that was the
yeah,
main focus of the FBI at this time.
yeah. Though
There is some
we can
infiltration of the Ku Klux Klan and a
yeah.
few other groups, but a lot of the focus is basically on defanging any prospect of an American Communist Party. This
Like
went really fucking far to the point of actual illegal actions done by members of the FBI to then use to falsely incriminate random labor organizers. I'm not even joking on this
Two
one.
of them went to the electric chair, for example.
Yeah, like the level of shit that the FBI pulled to pretty much basically completely innocent American citizens during CONINTELPRO is fucking disgusting.
but they
And
wanted
it
to
is
improve race relations. That's a clearly communist agenda.
I just
the funny
it's
bit about
Clearly,
wild.
that is
the
that
one thing that the Soviets want to see, and that would help their chances of showing how more better they are than America, is to
is
say that
better
America
race
is not racist.
relations. Truly, that is what the Soviets want to never be able to say. That America is not racist. Like, what the fuck is the problem with these people sometimes? And you might say, well, it's a class struggle thing that they want. And it's like, okay.
Well, that's the other thing.
I mean, there were
Our
elements of that.
intelligence did not fucking know. I honestly a goddamn thing about communism and
No, they don't.
how
Let me.
communists work.
No, no,
They
no.
pro-
Let me. To give you an idea on how surprised they were at how communism works, they were completely blindsided when Mao split when Khrushchev started denouncing Stalin. They were surprised and did not understand why
they thought that,
Albania fucking left, why Romania fucking left. They didn't get it.
well, Romania left and didn't leave. It's complicated with that
Either way,
one.
they were
But
surprised.
no,
They didn't
they
get
didn't
it.
really. Yeah, basically, there was an entire theory field of political science called Sovietology, where it was basically a bunch of Westerners looking at the Soviets and trying to figure out what the fuck are they actually thinking.
They
Because
thought it was a ruse to get the American intelligence agencies to try to levy, like they thought it was a ruse, like a fake split so that they could invest in one
they thought this.
and then
By the way, they thought this until I am not lying. The Soviet ambassador to the United States sat down with one of the main heads of the CIA. He was like a deputy head. It was at a lunch thing at some building in DC. He sits down across from him at lunch and orders a lunch. And of course, the other guy's like, okay, what the fuck? And he sits down and he leans over and goes, tell me, if we so happen to drop a nuke on the Chinese, how would the Americans respond?
this was during a war over an island on the Amur River. I'm not even kidding. They
Yes,
actually,
they
this is the first time the US even heard, oh, wait, there's like a border war going on.
wait.
What?
They had some indication from some people that were talking about this. They had communication
They
chatter.
thought it was like something akin to able Archer exercises though.
They thought it was perhaps an exercise or something like that. Because why would two communist countries come to blows over territory? Well,
After all, two capitalist countries never argue with each other.
over border disputes. Yeah, no, that's
It's because they
nonsense.
actually put too much credit in the idea that communists would actually work together in unity and solidarity. They they actually they actually
They
gave more
actually
credit
believe
to
that.
them.
The fucking idiots.
They gave more
They were
credit.
in charge of our government. They sent so many people to die all across the world over this.
They had a more optimistic view
Guatemala,
of communism
Guatemala,
than the
Cuba,
And the actual
Vietnam,
communists.
Brazil, Chile,
By the way,
Argentina. So many people have had their lives destroyed because a bunch of white Americans couldn't fucking just talk to a goddamn or go to a goddamn communist meeting and realize
it wasn't
how
just white
much they can't
Americans,
stand
dude.
each other.
It takes more than that to tango. You got to don't try to take the burden off of what they also fucking chose. The Chileans were willing to go to war with their fucking president. It wasn't just
Oh
Whitey
yeah,
there, buddy. The
no, this is
Italians were
another.
more. The Italian Christian Democratic Party was definitely willing to work with the successor to the Italian Fascist Party to prevent the
this is
Italian
the thing.
communists from winning.
Allende pissed off the Chilean left.
Right,
It
because
was
he wasn't going far enough, according to them.
They should have seen from that there's a disconnect.
Like, Allende's entire thing is basically like, all right, we're going to try to
You're
create
using Chile, but that's one of the few examples where they actually said, okay, we're actually preventing a civil war there.
They did prevent a civil war there. Unfortunately, they also propped up a dictator that basically caused the same amount of damage that the civil war would have done to the country.
But there was actually a logic there, as opposed to some of the other times.
Yeah. Like,
remember,
also disappeared American
Remember when Vietnam said, "Hey, you guys hate imperialism. Can you work with us to establish ourselves when we help fight the Japanese?"
We'll even make our Declaration of Independence look exactly like yours.
No,
sorry, Vietnamese people. We're giving you back to the French.
No, the French are more important than you. Basically.
They still to this day didn't understand. And the Vietnam War happened because of this misunderstanding.
We gave money to the Mujahideen. We gave money to the El Salvadorian anti-guerrillas, the Contras.
Okay, real talk. The Contras are kind of one of those things where it's like, I understand why we were supporting them completely, considering the Sandinistas' track record.
Yeah,
but it's still a level of like the amount of illegal shit they pulled to do that is amazing.
It is bold and brash.
Listen, anybody that lionizes Oliver North as an American hero should be brought out to a fucking garage and have their kneecaps broken. Because you have to understand that the Contras, in many ways, were not only as bad as the Sandinistas in terms of their effects on the local population,
You don't say.
But also had less restrictions and oversight because of CIA drug money being funneled to them, along with sales to the Iranian government, who were actively considered a hostile regime, in order to fund this.
Let's see. Then there's the fact that apparently we found out in 1974 that the IRS were using unconventional techniques to secure evidence.
Yeah,
and pretty much everything has been restored except for wiretapping.
Here's the
IRS.
Thing. The IRS knows how much you make, but they still demand that you try to explain it yourself.
Basically, so that they can incriminate you if they have to. But no, like, I love this little detail of how the IRS was basically able to just completely go balls to the wall, no holds barred, against anyone they suspected of tax fraud back in the day. We're talking everything was on the table. We're talking black bag jobs. Yeah. We're talking wiretapping. We're talking second story work. It's amazing.
Reminder, the IRS were the heroes in defeating the Chicago outfit.
Oh, yes, they were.
They were
Yes, it's one of those funny things about federal law enforcement, which is that most people are confused. When the FBI talks to them, they're confused. When the marshals talk to them, they wonder that there's still a marshal's service. When the IRS talks to you, you're absolutely fucking terrified.
You know, the organization's terrifying when even the homicidal clown from the DC comics,
the Joker,
the Joker himself,
what, and mess with the IRS? No.
No, he's when even he's like, nah, I don't want to fight that.
I don't want to fight that. They're going to
he
get
can't
me.
he can't claim insanity as a defense for tax fraud.
Correct. You can't. It just doesn't work.
But in short, the
Let's hold
FBI
on.
was a shit show,
Yeah.
and it took the next guy and then the guy after him, and it still has that institutional rot that Hoover has. It's just not as
In
bad.
the 90s, there's still that lingering evidence of Hoover in terms of who is recruited to the FBI. Because there are cliques that formed in the FBI due to Hoover. Namely in how they recruited, which is that they could only trust usually Baptist white men.
There's a reason
I'm
why
not
the
even
FBI
joking.
had that really awkward ad program where they showed their very few diversity, like actual diversity hires, just to go, we're not racist, please. No,
I believe Kash Patel is the first non-white head of the CIA or no, of the FBI.
He is.
Yeah, it's a club that was founded by white men, and honestly, Patel's kind of ruined it for everyone. Congratulations.
I mean, I would be honest, considering
unqualified.
I think COINTELPRO had ruined the FBI in the crib.
Oh no, COINTELPRO was a real fucking problem. But back to Delta Green related stuff.
Yeah.
Probably
Let's move on from the timeline. I do want to point out with the timeline, they do bring up, and this is an actual event, the Secret Service in 1990 raids Steve Jackson Games and confiscates computers because they assumed that GURPS Cyberpunk RPG sourcebook was a computer crime manual.
That actually happened. I don't have it, but you know what they also did 3 years later? Allow me to show you the greatest drug bust they've ever done.
Oh,
we need
the
best
U.S. agent in gorilla suit catches private smugglers.
This entire incident, and
it is on film somewhere.
It is on film.
It has to be in an archive
in Miami, I think.
We are calling out everybody listening to this video.
We need
go for a Freedom of Information Act and find that video. Post it on our Discord. Post it somewhere. If you do get it, we need to see, and it's essential for American patriotism and to show the hardworking people in our government that we were able to disguise a man as a gorilla to arrest a Mexican zoo director on charge of purchasing endangered animal. We need to see the video of that Mexican zoo director opening up the door and running away in terror because a gorilla with a gun is in front of him.
This is actually really important. We need you to make a FOIA request.
Not only that, but a footage of said gorilla with a gun, with the guy with his mask off, apparently with a long blonde mullet, smoking a cigarette.
This is very critical. You need to go make a FOIA request at the local Florida branch. This is important to understand animal rights because this man was responsible for saving an endangered species of ape. And it's also really, really fucking funny. Please, for us.
For America.
For America, we need this. This is actually key for the Gorilla Channel to be made.
Also, other things, the numerous amount of times that the Secret Service failed or nearly prevented the murder of a president.
Oh God,
there's a lot of
it's happened a lot, yeah.
To the surprise that only 4 presidents have been killed.
Well, to be fair, the Secret Service didn't exist until after Lincoln.
Yeah, but that was after the first president was killed.
Well, they existed, but they weren't tasked with presidential protection. They were originally Treasury agents.
Also, don't forget prospective presidents. Interestingly enough, since we're talking about this time period under Hoover, remember the great, horrible presidential candidate George Wallace had a detachment.
Yeah.
And almost died, legitimately. Almost died from a dude who wanted to make his money and fame by doing it. Not even kidding. That's what the assassin's motives was, just to make a name. Which is more common than you think. Reminder that Reagan was almost shot by a dude who wanted to get an actress to look at him. Because she played an underage chick in Taxi
he was
Driver.
Shot by her. Almost killed is the statement.
As he said, I forgot to duck.
Well, also Reagan has said, I rather hope the person operating on me is Republican.
Yeah.
Which, despite all of his policies, props to a man on the operating table to crack a joke.
Yeah.
But this brings us then to the actual campaign of running Delta Green and what this book is primarily here for, which is to provide the various options of what you as a Delta Green agent can fight.
There's a section of this is designed for the players, and there's a section of this is designed for the GM, and it's a rough summary of what the original source book back in '97 covered. It's almost a word for word reprint in a lot of areas because it's still the material that would be relevant to your game. There's just a few things that are changed around because they can't call them that now.
So,
You know,
obviously, one of the major organizations, Delta Green.
Well,
The
Delta
other
Green.
is Majestic. And Majestic is, well, what happened after the Roswell incident, in which they did find alien technology, and then the aliens started talking to them, offered them uh, um, government sanction for activities, and exchange for information. It also turns out that these aliens are actually nothing more than biological automatons puppeted by the Migo, the fungi from Yuggoth.
Yes, there is a ton of stuff that is dug into in other parts of these older Delta Green books. It is not in this one because this is more of a coverage.
These people have government sanction.
Yes. All the black helicopters, that's them. The NRO, Delta, that's them. Basically everything that you can, if you're looking in, again, as I said, Behold a Pale Horse, almost everything about Majestic is just lifted from general conspiracy culture of the time period.
The second conspiracy, though, Karyotechia, neo-Nazis. And not just actually no, they're not neo-Nazis. They are the original Nazis.
They're actual Nazis.
They're in Argentina, led by
they're actually in the Brazilian rainforest. They got to Argentina and then they went out into the Amazon to have their own.
Led by a manifestation of Adolf Hitler himself, using magics to prolong their lives and exert control over a network of neo-Nazis. Then you have Saucer Watch. These are your UFOologies before they start going completely crazy and just become grifters.
It's very common for ufologists to become grifters, by the way, like ridiculously so.
The Fate, basically the whole satanic panic, an occult underground going into political corruption, prostitution, child trafficking. They're also wizards, located in New York City.
I think my brain hemorrhaged when you explained what the hell Karyotechia is. I don't know, it's just something about that intrinsically made all of my bones enter attack mode.
Oh, it's gonna get fun.
I love the Karyotechia. They're great.
Now, they should be dead, and thankfully they do end up getting easily wiped out.
They're one of the few factions where you can get a complete win.
But then we have the other sort of entities. You could fight the deep ones, although Delta Green kind of has put the kibosh on them.
They go into this in the history of Delta Green, which I love. We'll have to cover that as like part of the stream because
ghouls, the Elder Things, Great Race of Yith, insects from Shagai, Cho-Cho, all the stuff you know and love.
Yeah, the classic stuff. Because I'm noticing that this book is definitely emphasizing more the conspiracy stuff than the stuff that I might have picked this up for.
Well, because here's the thing. You can't really know this stuff. Like you're gonna go and that's the thing. Delta Green does not know pretty much anything about like the Migo, about Cthulhu. They don't, because they will go insane, and because they can't keep records of it. They just go mad. They don't have the knowledge.
But at this point, I would just raise instead, why not try West End Games Men in Black?
Well, that's more of a comedy game.
Yes and no. Reminder that the comics actually
That-
leaned a lot more on the
I'll
occult.
be all right. Time out here. No, Delta Green actually knows quite a bit about the supernatural. They don't know the details though, and that's where the devil is.
And that I am much more fine with, because they're fumbling in a dark room, and Lord help them if they touch the mysterious orifice.
I guess for instance,
They know
they
a
have a
lot about the deep ones.
they have a
They know
copy
a
somewhere
fuck
of the
ton.
king. They have a copy somewhere of the King in Yellow, which is bad because they have a copy of the King in Yellow.
Well, not only that, but I imagine that they are the reason why, the conspiracy that you're not allowed to go to Antarctica because of the boats that stop you. They're there to prevent you
Because
from
of the
entering
Hollow
the
Earth. Yeah.
Well, no, they're there to prevent you from going to the Miskatonic mountain range. Reminder.
They might know it exists, but
No, reminder since this is taking place in Lovecraft's universe, you have mountain ranges taller than the Himalayas down in the southern pole. And Arthur
I mean, you
Gordon
do. They're
Pym's
just under
shit
ice.
happened.
You kind of do. They're just under ice. The general nature of this is that they go into like some of the stuff that they talk about, and it's very interesting, is how different things are from the classic era of Lovecraft in the 20s compared to the 90s. Like ghouls, for instance, they live around New York subway tunnels now,
I mean,
and
you're
occasionally a homeless
saying that,
person goes.
but ghouls kind of did that in Pickman's model. They did
I
that
mean,
in with
yeah,
Boston. They did that in the Boston subway.
yeah. I
yeah, but
mean,
now they live
yeah.
near
Even now they're in New York because Boston subway, New York subway.
They
or that like
probably
the
were.
Chochos. The Chochos were involved in the Vietnam War,
Yeah,
much like some of the other groups that the CIA used to help fight the Viet Cong. We used the Chochos, and then we
and it
stopped
went
using
about
the
as
Chochos.
well as it went about as well as you would expect.
Don't forget that they were probably brought on as refugees, much akin to the Hmong.
Oh yes, they
Oh
were.
yeah,
There are
they were.
Chocho communities all over the United States now.
Thanks, CIA.
Very cool.
Uh, Delta Green, though, they have. I love this image here that they have of this guy with like an old trench shotgun with a bayonet, with a fucking deep one that's just dead next to him in like a cornfield,
What page are
Because
you
that
on,
a
is
wheat
Jay?
where
field.
uh,
Page
we're moving a little
46.
bit. Yeah,
Yeah, you jumped really
because
far ahead.
that is where Delta Green originates. There
Right.
was a raid on Innsmouth in 1928. There was a
Described
report.
described in the aftermath in the book itself.
Yes, and it's in the short story. They talk about that there was several raids on Innsmouth,
And
and I love this because they basically have it that U.S. Treasury agents investigate it, and then they report to Coolidge of like, oh, I think that they might be communists. Coolidge, of course, okay, communists, round them up,
Well, he wouldn't say that many
subversives,
words. He would just say, "Do it."
just do it.
yes,
And
No, not
so
even just do it. Just do it.
The Office of Naval Intelligence, the U.S. Marine Corps, the U.S. Coast Guard, a U.S. Navy submarine, a Justice Department, of course, with the Bureau of Investigation, and the Secret Service and Treasury Department all raid Innsmouth.
and beat
And
the shit out of
find,
ones.
yes, they find a bunch of this shit, and they kind of make like a gigantic collection known as the Puzzle Box Report, effectively the operate or Project Puzzle Box. They seize a bunch of copies of the logbooks that were used by Obed Marsh, the Marsh family history, a bunch of various stone tablets,
They also
glyphs.
narrate. They also reference that the author of the book, the main character from that story, was shot by Marines.
Yes.
Yeah. We all also then they find some other information from this organization called P4, Parapsychology, Paranormal, and Psychic Phenomena Desk.
Basically, it starts out as an Office of Naval
Yeah.
Intelligence thing because there is the Black Chamber, right? Also
Yeah,
known as
which is
the code
thing.
breaking is an actual organization, the Black Chamber. They were tasked with breaking naval ciphers of other navies across the world because that was the job.
And these were the people that eventually figured out how the language of the Deep Ones worked.
They
And
managed to translate it, and it went
Yeah.
really badly.
but they found various other areas. They found 2 Deep One colonies, one in the Philippines, one I believe in
They found several,
Coral
and they
and
started to
Nicaragua.
just Nicaragua. They just started to deal with it. There's actually sort of an implication there that one of the U.S. interventions into Nicaragua during the 1930s was because of the deep ones.
And then afterwards, when World War II comes around, the P4
P4
get
is
connected with the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, and
right.
they stop something going on in Nazi-occupied Europe. They were going to open a dimensional rift of some sort in the Abendherbe. I butcher that.
This is a nod to RFID and Hellboy, I think, because the
Yes,
Hellboy
there's some nods to
stories.
that. They talk
Because
about like the
because
Karyoteca
because Himmler was an actual
occultist. Yes.
yeah.
But the portal concept, that's a nod to Project Ragnarok from the comics.
My personal favorite bit about this is they even mentioned Call of Cthulhu investigators because they mentioned that P4 conducted operations in the United States against groups of cultists, but they were often overworked and underfunded, and usually local authorities or concerned private investigators handled the situations before they could get involved. They were just the cover-up.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you can run a Call of Cthulhu era game in Delta Green as parts of P4, which is
My
an interesting idea.
No, hear me out. You run the Delta Green game based on the aftermath of the Call of Cthulhu campaign. So if they all freaking die, they either mop it up, or or if you succeed, you're the guys that have to basically get rid of the evidence.
Right.
But the thing is, whatever was going to be, well, they were tracking down this incident in Bavaria. They found what used to be where the Nabandaban castle was, as the mountain it had sat on had been partially scoured away, and the damage it was compared to was the Tunguska blast from 1908. Thankfully, Delta Green, in the last few months of World War II, stopped it.
Yeah,
From
there's
happening again.
Yeah,
But
apparently
then,
they had to fight some remnants of werewolf.
but
yes.
then we obviously have the Roswell incident. We have
They also
oh,
referenced that Smersh got their hands on Karotechia details.
they
Yes,
did.
they did.
We worked with the Russians to eliminate them. Apparently, those
there's some discussions
Karatechia
there.
were working with the dictator of Argentina, Juan Perón, to unearth something in Antarctica.
There's a
There's
lot of
also
things you
the
can unlock.
Karyoteca.
The
The
research,
Karyoteca were
there was a research though to have a longevity and life extension project for the ailing Joseph Stalin.
yeah. We get into that.
Yeah.
That Delta Green is involved in an operation to try to kill Stalin, and it is
And it
in
worked.
fact that but they are not involved in that actual death. They got captured by they got captured by
The
a
NKVD.
by the NKVD who literally let the Delta Green team, the last surviving member, go because they realized who he was and what was going on, and they're like, "Oh, it happened." SVU 8 was also involved with that, which is
Yeah.
the Russian equivalent.
But then in 1955, disaster struck, as one of the researchers who translated the Book of Dagon suffered a mental breakdown and destroyed all of these original documents. 14 years of research down the drain.
I mean, you got to give credit. He lasted longer than you'd think after translating something like that.
The
Most
better,
investigators don't even last a few months.
yeah, the head of Delta
I think this is
Green's Project Puzzle
edited
Box.
picture of Dennis also with an axe on the next page.
I think that is Dennis.
No, that he just showed up one
Oh,
day with that. That wasn't even supposed to be. That actually
He
wasn't
just
even
showed up
supposed
like
to
that
be.
to the office.
He's going full Wilford Brimley in the thing.
That's what the reference is. But no, I like the idea. No, that's just actually a real photo. They just photoshopped the background. He was just there in the office one day, screaming
Yeah.
with a head wound
But
and an X. Like, this is just him on a normal day.
This is just a normal day for him.
Basically, Delta Green's members are going insane and, well, dying. So they try to tap into other federal intelligence and law enforcement personnel, marking their status being connected to the organization with a small green delta on their personnel files.
Basically, these are people we can trust and we can bring in to the secrets as necessary. We can trust them not to talk, and they have skills that we need.
Okay, now I can
Further
tell you
on-
that this setting's not plausible, because there's no way in hell that the people who originally worked on the puzzle box would be able to last 30 years without losing their shit, unless they barely touched it.
Well, I mean,
most
it's
of them.
probably just
Well,
like a
I'm
level
assuming
of-
this. Most of them died in World War II.
I'm just making fun because
Yeah.
you've seen how quickly sanity fucking spirals down in these games.
It can.
Well, the difference is that Delta Green was winning at this point. They were successful.
And then things start to go downhill.
More operations going on in
the Cold
other
War.
countries.
There's a lot going on.
And the breaking point, though, is November
Vietnam.
1969. Delta Green veteran, Marine Colonel Satchel Wade, launched an operation in Cambodia against a temple devoted to bring this god Anga to Earth. 300 Marines or 300 U.S. servicemen are killed. The survivors cross back to the border, find Wade and his strange mistress, and kill him. Pentagon did not want to explain to Congress what the fuck happened because, well, this is after the Tet Offensive, the bombings in Laos, and the My Lai massacre. And so on January 24th, 1970, Delta Green is disbanded. Those green triangles are removed from personnel files.
And it gets worse.
However, some of these officials are met with the people working on the Roswell incident under the label of Majestic. And they end up actually working together and being able to fight against some stuff.
Basically, what happened was, since at this point those with Delta Green clearance were aware of how fucking dangerous this sort of stuff was, they realized that the government not having any ability to fight back is probably a bad thing.
So they go undercover.
No, they legitimately go rogue. And they work with Majestic because they still had government clearance at the time.
All right. No. So here's what happens.
I mean, I'm just reading what's in here.
Yes, I'm summarizing this a little bit better. So here's what happens. The fucky wucky in Cambodia happens. 300 dead U.S. servicemen. There's investigations into this incident, which result in Delta Green clearance being stopped being issued.
Especially given that a lot of the higher ups were going crazy frequently.
No, the higher ups weren't going crazy. It's that they were like the Joint Chiefs and other people were like, why is this program happening and why did it cause this fucking incident that's going to be bad? And then on top of that, by May of that year, U.S. and South Vietnamese troops invade Cambodia, and it becomes a bigger clusterfuck. Doesn't work out too well. The next step, of course, is that they start to just basically disband everything. All the people that have the clearance, they're locked out of what they were doing with Delta Green. There's a lot of discussion over what we do with it. Nothing really works out too well. It's officially quietly ended. By the end of 1970, there is no more Delta Green in terms of official clearance. That's all been disabled. There's no one new that's being given Delta Green clearance. None of that is happening.
Now, after 1970, Delta Green doesn't exist officially.
By about the summer of 1970, there is no more Delta Green clearance anyway. However, there's about 40 of these guys with the clearance who have been out of the loop for about 5 months now and are trying to figure out what the fuck is going on and what the fuck is happening. They meet together and realize that, honestly, we can't just leave this alone. Like, there's still the threat out there and still the problem. So they start making contacts, calls, connections. They realize Majestic is a thing through sharing information with each other. And they're like,
also,
well, Majestic...
those 40 were the diehards that refused to stand down, just to let you know.
Right. And by Christmas of 71...
they bomb a Chocho village to shit and back.
Yep. They basically accidentally redirect a bunch of B-52 flights over known Chocho villages. Because fuck them.
Because these guys may not be fighting in the front lines, but they have the one thing that everyone fears: federal bureaucracy.
Right, because really, it's hard to find them. Because they're already in the bureaucracy with their job, and they're already working as an ad hoc basis anyway.
Also, if you had Delta
So
Green clearance, you probably were high enough in the organizations traditionally. Not the organization itself, but like other government organizations and bodies. There's not going to be many looking at what you do.
more accurately, if you have one of these things and you were a private in Vietnam, well, you come back from the war and you get a job in local law enforcement or the FBI or the marshals or whatever else. And then someone comes back and contacts you about this and you remember this sort of shit, because how can you fucking forget the weird shit in the jungle you saw then?
I mean,
And
you're
that's how
you're not
Delta
gonna
Green starts
forget the
recruiting.
time. You're not gonna forget the time you saw the villagers turn into a horde of snakes and eat the rest of your platoon alive.
Exactly.
And so Delta Green exists on this for some time until February of 1994, where a retired Army Major, Army Major General Reginald Fairfield, is assassinated by NRO Delta. What this alerts is this guy then leaks information about Majestic and is finding out that they're a threat. And Delta
Right.
Green does
Basically, he's
want
been
to,
investigating.
yeah, Delta Green does want to investigate this, but of the 44 members, half of them were still in government service, all of them due for mandatory retirement, but there was little like recruitment. They have friendlies,
Right.
but they're just they needed to set up a structure and they needed to set up a way to counteract these threats.
I want to note this. This is 40 out of everyone that was marked with the green triangle. That's a lot of deaths.
Either deaths from old age, deaths from mysterious means, confinement to asylums, that
They
sort of
had,
thing.
yeah, they had plenty of friendlies. They had plenty of retired members. But anyone that was still active, there's less than 40 at that point. There's like 40. And those that get together start to organize as they realize that Majestic is way bigger than they thought it was. That's what Fairfield was working on.
That this was not just an organization that was looking into UFOs.
Well, not only
Right.
that,
They're
but
starting to
like,
realize
why the
there's
hell would they
something
kill
way
him?
weirder.
Why did they kill him? Oh, he must have found something interesting. Oh, he was looking into them, and they sent. Okay, they have to be hiding something. What?
As
Right.
stated in the goals and beliefs section, while the purpose is to protect people from paranormal threat, the highest level one is uncover those aliens active on Earth who are collaborating with elements of the government and to eliminate the threat posed by those elements to the autonomy of the federal government and to the authority of the Constitution of the United States.
And
They
this is also
don't
where the
really
cell
know what,
structure.
Majestic is doing, but they said, yeah, we're going to commit so many illegal actions in order to protect the United States.
A lot of the cell structure idea, as mentioned before, is to try to keep things compartmentalized because they have no idea of how much authority and how much sway Majestic has. They know that they have something to do with a lot of stuff in the government. They have fingers everywhere. They know that. Much like Delta Green
They
did.
also know they have a wetworks division that's rather effective.
Yes, much like Delta Green did.
So yeah, so often Delta Green in their operations, try to hide away evidence. They try to put things up as like I'm on administrative leave, not have any bureaucratic footprints of their operations, give fake
basically
identities,
a
or
lot of
work
this is now
in hybrid investigations, such as Waco.
Waco.
Waco in Delta Green is a hybrid operation because they looked at the Branch Davidians and found that they were somewhat connected to, or they had
Other
similar ties to other things.
cults
They then
that they
found out,
knew about.
no, it wasn't, but they considered it a success because Delta Green was not revealed.
Delta Green, not only was Delta Green not revealed, but they did in fact neutralize the cells of several actual cults during the chaos.
So yes, you
So
may have totally disrupted the American public's trust in the federal government and created many more conspiracy
But hey,
theorists.
we wiped out an actual existential threat to the world. So you know what? Absolute win.
Of course, no one knows about it.
Yeah. Why would they?
I mean, as long
That's
as
the
it
point.
works.
And welcome to the nature of Delta Green operations. The
Yeah.
amount of morally questionable stuff that your average agent will probably be expected to do at some point or the other is
Like-
insane.
To give an example,
If you want to
I've played
track
a
the
few
amount of
games. I've played a few games of Delta Green and ran some. In one of them, my players had to find a way to eliminate evidence of some weird phenomenon going on in a morgue, and then later go to a funeral home and eliminate the person at that funeral home. They had to actively lie to to state law enforcement.
So let me put it like this. Your average Delta Green session is not a question of when will the law be broken, but how many times will federal, local, and state law be violated during your operation?
Also,
The
how
answer to
many
that is
times do
probably
you
going
have
to
to
be
stack
yes.
bodies? Yes.
A lot of
Oh
Delta
no,
Green
we're not
operations,
stacking bodies. We're putting them in barrels.
a lot of Delta Green operations, people go like, "Oh, there's going to be deaths," and it's like, yes, a lot of the time when you're having a player on player sort of stuff, yes, you're probably going to have a death or two.
No, I
This
don't mean
doesn't
death in the
necessarily
cell. I mean just collateral damage.
No, I mean even like collateral damage. Like you're probably going to have one or two usually. But there's a difference between you kind of found the dead body and now you have to deal with it to you need to cause a bunch of dead bodies.
Because sometimes you have to.
Yep, because sometimes it's at the point of where the situation is completely out of control and the best way to deal with it is shoot everyone, ask questions later.
And invent
And-
excuse and cover up later.
Also known
And-
as the American Police Special.
Speaking
And
of knowledge, what does the cell know? That's a thing that you're going to constantly want to think
What
about.
Yes. What
Not
does
enough.
Delta Green actually know? And the answer is just enough to think that they know enough that they can get away with it.
Oh, and also the more they know, the more horrified and prone to laughing inconsolably. They
That's
will
the
become.
thing.
Because I
this
want
is
you to
one of the
understand,
things
if
where we
you
talk about
truly
this.
knew the knowledge of the deep ones, that means every time a ship is traveling under the ocean, there may be a gigantic humanoid creature just stalking it.
Oh,
And we don't know how big they
have a
can
bunch
get.
of that. There's also, and I like this note about it, is that they know enough about the natures of magic and sorcery and things like that. They call it hypergeometry. Same thing.
Because violating the laws of physics is well,
Going
there has to
beyond
be a reason to it.
normal geometry, whatever. The point being that they actually cause a few very interesting things to happen as a consequence of their operations. You see, there's a spell in the original Call of Cthulhu called Summon Deep One, basically, where it's you go over to the shore and Ally, Dagon, Mother
They were
Hydra, all that
summoning
shit.
deep ones and then shooting them in the fucking
Yes,
head.
they were literally setting up kill zones on beaches for deep ones. They would then call them up and basically fucking Omaha beach them every goddamn time they came up, to the point where the deep ones just stopped answering because they're like, nah, not this shit again. Oh, no.
Now it costs so many of them their sanity.
It costs a lot of sanity for people because, yeah, it's magic, it's mind warping, all that.
But I think you gain
But
maybe D4 sanity every time you murder one of these things?
Well, I mean, you gain at least D4 for killing all of them that come up. So, I mean, it definitely didn't even out, but, hey, it came close.
Speaking of, another thing they might know about is, remember, one of the short stories involves just occasionally chunks of land will rise up and no one knows why, probably hypergeometry.
Yeah.
It just happens. Because that happens in the short story Dagon.
I do have to say this. I do think they did win their war against the deep ones. Because, as they point out, there have only been 5 known sightings since the mid-1970s.
Though, admittedly, that's because the deep ones kind of learned from this.
The deep ones are now basically underwater and staying there, and occasionally attacking military submarines. They did that in 69 or 68.
The Thresher incident, the USS
the Thresher incident.
There are actually, funny enough, several incidences in the 60s where
68,
submarines
yes.
just
Went missing. Yeah.
went missing. Real
That's
There's
because
a
they were
lot of
testing pressure hull depths and some of the new
no,
systems, especially for
That's
no,
nuclear engineering.
no, that's the cover story. That's
no.
the cover story.
That's no. I can attest to that. That is not the case for several of these accidents. We know that there was a Soviet missile submarine that went missing just off the coast of Hawaii that may have been preparing to launch nukes. We don't know. The CIA knows because they recovered them, but they're not telling people.
But
There's a French submarine that went missing. There's the Thresher as well, and then there's a
Well,
questions of whether or
the
not.
Thresher, I think we know though why it went missing. It was a
That
guy
you're thinking
feature
of the
that went wrong.
Scorpion.
No,
The
no,
Scorpion
no,
is the
no.
one where
The
that
Thresher,
happened.
no. The Thresher's was actually explained, and it was because
No, the Thresher is still not explained. The Thresher's best guess is that there was a malfunction in the torpedo bay that caused a detonation that basically
I
destroyed the
think you're
submarine
confusing it with
at
the.
depth.
I'm pretty sure the Thresher was the one that went under
No,
too
the
deep.
Scorpion. The Scorpion is the one that went too deep.
well,
I'm pretty
besides
no,
that,
I'm pretty sure I'm right on this one.
I think with that we should move then on to the next conspiracy,
We'll
Because there's
probably
quite a
which
few
is the
cover.
alien,
stories about
which
that
is
one.
the alien space fungi from the not
We might
planet
skip
of
this one
Pluto.
because I'd say that it's probably best for people to read and learn about this one themselves.
Basically, let's just say the
Very well.
Greys are not what they seem. Although
Because
Well,
no, you guys
is
actually
much
spoiled
more
that.
interesting.
You guys
Yeah,
kind
we
of
did.
spoiled them.
I do want to share this. Okay, so basically, alien abductions are from the Migo. And I do like this though, is that the reason they're doing it is because they don't understand humans thinking. There's this kind of intuition and this sort of illogical thinking that they can't understand because Mio can only recognize things based on what they've experienced and I guess what's rationally making sense. So I do believe you can confuse Amigo by asking them, what if they didn't have breakfast this morning?
Well, it's because the Migo in the stories tended to try to live through the experiences by essentially replacing and mimicking people. They have a habit of doing that.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. If you do ask them that question, they will then just steal your brain so they can understand that question. But you will have
Yeah.
actually confused an eldritch monster.
It's actually pretty easy to do that to them.
Yeah, the Migo are well, they're sentient fungus beings. They're weird.
They're also
They're just
partially
weird.
not in our dimension.
Right.
I mean, they're more there than, say, the Cthulhu spawn, and they're definitely a hell of a lot more there than the old ones. But they're not
Right.
entirely made out of standard physical matter.
But
Right.
then there comes to the humans who got into contact with their servitors. You
Which
see,
is majestic.
Majestic found a crashed ship made of a unknown metal. They found 4 bodies. One of them was alive, but not conscious. Tiny, colored gray with huge eyes, a tiny mouth and nose, and no genitals or hair. Then obviously examined them, took them in, tried to research their machinery, which didn't get that much success.
Because,
Up until
again,
yeah.
as a being that isn't entirely there, their technology is also not necessarily entirely there. It also operates on hypergeometry a little bit. It's a little bit reality breaking just naturally, and we don't have the knowledge without going crazy on how to do it.
Up until 1978. A part of Project Aquarius, they deciphered extraterrestrial transmissions that were detected in 1954. This was from the Greys, saying they were ready to initiate contact whenever we would be able to translate the message. The message should be sent in coded laser transmissions at specific coordinates. We did that, and finally, October 31st, 1980, at Area 51, humanity made contact with an alien species. And then finally, the survivor from the Roswell crash was present there. For the first time in 33 years, moved and spoke. It said thank you, then joined its companions. They then presented the Americans with several items. The first is the cookbook. 3,500 pages made of a leather-like material. It's bound by it, holding the keys to human genetics. They then offered the next gift, a periodical document containing a complete breakdown of all world military forces, everything that every military in the world has.
By the way, what page is this?
Page 93.
I was wondering because there's a lot of personnel that we just skipped. I wanted to know about that.
Yeah.
Apologies, viewers.
They would deliver this document updated every month, and more if needed. To receive these items, they would be free to operate within the United States, harvesting U.S. citizens temporarily, conducting biological and psychological experiments on U.S. soil, and free flight over U.S. airspace, and many, many more.
Which isn't a good thing. It actually leads to a lot of troubles, and this was a poisoned deal.
But then Reagan came in.
And Reagan went, hell fucking yeah.
I'd like to imagine that he did actually meet the Greys and offer them jelly beans.
I want to believe that.
Now, I like the idea that since his brain was so screwed up by the end, the Migo was also counting jelly beans with him. Sorry, we kind of spoiled it,
Well,
so we just have
here
fungi
is
aliens and him just, like,
well,
counting jelly
hold on.
beans.
He apparently had thought he'd seen a UFO back in 1974. What if they had planned this the entire time?
I mean, the Migo do experiment with a lot of interesting devices and technologies and genetic engineering.
And so, because of this action, the American government took probably one of the most Faustian bargains ever made, as they have literally given sovereignty of the American government up to these aliens that they have only been in contact with twice.
Basically,
All to win the
how to
fucking
win the
Cold
Cold
War.
War. Yep.
And
Basically,
to get
Ronnie
a book on human genetics that they can't really fucking read.
and it's really fucking funny because they basically go in and the writers basically go, yeah, Bush Senior knew about this because he was part of the CIA and had some idea of Majestic anyway, so he continued the policies because why wouldn't he? And then Majestic decided not to talk to Clinton.
I
For
wonder
That's
various
why.
an excellent
reasons.
point. Confusing Amigo is about as easy as confusing someone with severe mental illness, just much more dangerous. Yes.
Yep.
Especially because one of the interesting properties of these fungi creatures are they discard information they no longer see as relevant. So at any point, they could just legitimately forget a good portion of the details they know about you. Like if they met you 30 years ago, but they never had to meet you again, they could forget who you were. If you were that unimportant.
You know, all this, it does make them sound, though, very stupid.
I mean, they kind of are. Like if you think about it, they kind of muck about in the backwoods of New England. That's pretty stupid.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, Majestic, though, has government funding. Has
Oh,
Reagan era government funding. Reagan era government funding for clandestine operations. That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
it's a ridiculous amount of money. Also, this is probably so far my least favorite of the conspiracies. I don't know, there's just something about Majestic that I just bounce off of.
Well, they have 12 different operations for 12 different programs, each doing their own thing to probably violate several laws within the United States.
Here's all of their
Th-
locations, by the
Yeah,
way.
this is again, it is a source book. So if you want to plan an operation against, oh, let's say here, uh, Project Moondust, which is MJ5 to intercept, shoot down, and recover extraterrestrial craft, which gives me a great idea of these guys trying to violate Brazilian airspace to recover the wreckage from the Varginha incident.
You could also just straight up, if you felt like it, do an operation, say, at the El Indio UFO crash site. That's still there.
There's
Or
also the fact
March
that
Technologies Facility 19.
all these directors have their own ideas on what they should be using the Greys for. Like some of them honestly believe the bullshit the Greys are sending them, and views humanity as dangerous primitives, and
So,
therefore is completely fine
so
with
Not
what the
Nito
Greys
has a
do.
great question. If the aliens had the power to do all this shit, why did they bother to ask for permission? It's more that it
They're
makes
For
it
playing with
humanity,
us.
it makes it so
They're
easier
it's
because
easier, and it's another test. It's part of their experiment.
they're trying to understand humanity because they probably know what Delta Green is.
Well, they've
Maybe
likely experienced one or two operations where some of their experiments were defeated by them coincidentally.
And they don't understand. Actually, it might be why is the species fighting each other? They're the same species.
Or
It doesn't make
alternatively,
sense.
they are confused at the contradicting details one entity can have that at the same time. Like, you proclaim yourself a
an
defender of your people,
optical.
but you send them to the meat grinder. We do not understand this.
They do not understand the optical illusion. It is irrational.
Basically, the idea, it's just so to make it easier. It's just to make it easier. I don't know about Majestic being the way it is. There's just
Like
something about it that
yeah,
I'm
like
kind of bouncing off of for this one.
they give sub projects like the actual um documents of the cookbook and trying to exploit it. By doing so, creating a race of clean soldiers that would be more than programmable killing machines.
By the way, there's a
Using
bunch of
cloning.
projects like Pluto, Sigma, Project Arc Dream, Core, Bounce. There's a lot of these. For example,
Again,
Project
Majestic
Recoil,
is
where they
very
study people who have been genetically modified by the cookbook.
Majestic is very interesting to use as an antagonist, and this whole section is so that you have an idea of what you can actually do. Because remember, half of this '90s Delta Green experience is supposed to be investigating and uncovering the actual conspiracy of Majestic for the rest of Delta Green. A lot of what you're going to be doing in a '90s game has tangential connections to either Majestic or one of the other factions listed in this book. And that's kind of what makes it work as a campaign setting for Delta Green, because it's a very specific era and vibe, and they have
It
a
has a
great
vibe,
connection
but
to
I
players.
find I'm kind of bouncing off this a little more than I thought I would.
Well, I
Now,
think
it's
because
that we are speeding
they're
through
only
this.
affecting one area and also really focusing not on like the eldritch horror, but just the alien conspiracies.
Well, they'll get into the Eldritch horror in a
Yeah,
second. It's just that Majestic is a large part of it. The Karyoteca are basically Eldritch horror, and then the next section.
move on to Karyotechia then.
I
We'll
mean,
just do a basic overview
I think
because, again,
Majestic has a lot of stuff that I'm skimming past because let's be fair. I think I'm more of a classic Call of Cthulhu guy now that I'm actually seriously looking through Delta Green.
Well, then actually no, you will actually like Karyotechia.
oh, you'll love the Karyoteca
Oh,
then,
I
because the
will, but I
Karyoteca are
don't want to shit on
classic.
Majestic here because they are very important and it deals with a lot of that X-Files alien infiltrating the government shit.
Oh
That
yeah,
is very important.
it's blatantly fucking X-Files shit.
And it's more,
It
and
is
this is more
X-Files
for
stuff.
other people, and a lot of people like this sort of stuff. I could take or leave it. I don't necessarily mind it. It's just the game is very different from what I was expecting it to be.
Well, that's the thing. The game can be very different depending on what you're focusing on in this era.
Which is nice because sometimes you do want to fight the evil government conspiracy involving aliens. So needing
And
to
other
know
times you
stuff
want to
like
shoot
Project
Nazis.
Redlight, kind of useful.
Yeah. So, Karyotechia are
Oh, okay.
Nazi
We'll
occultists.
move on. All right.
Yeah. They are Nazi occultists who, well, believe that they can use the powers of the Eldritch to create the Fourth Reich.
By the way, here's all of the members of major Majestic branches. There's 12 of them. Just to give you guys some insight on it.
Because Majestic 12,
They did things like uh, give the Deep Ones Jews, Romani, and Russian POWs.
Yeah, that sounds like something they
sacrifices.
do.
Which that technically means the Deep Ones can be Jewish.
By the way,
Oy
here's the
vey.
fucked up thing.
It technically means that they can be Jewish.
Here's the
This
fucked up
puts a
thing.
new perspective on the gefilte fish.
Several of the organizations here are actually real because of the study of the occult and the weird theosophy that the Nazis were worshipping and obsessed with.
They did actually have some weird esoteric bullshit.
And
But
they stole a lot of
after
it too.
after the Nazis get their shit kicked in, even after the war, they're left with 4 people.
Yeah, there's
At
not a
least in
lot of
this one
them left.
location, La Stancia, a rubber
Basically,
plantation
of the
in Brazil.
original, to give you an idea, of the original 164 of the Karyoteca, 19 died killed by Allied agents, 6 died of natural causes, 3 killed during bombing campaigns, 4 executed for disloyalty, 15 killed during a failed ritual summoning, 1 captured by the NKVD, 9 committed suicide, 11 irrevocably insane, 24 vanished without a trace, of which, what was Action Iclos again? Oh, right,
Icelos?
the UFO base inside of Antarctica.
Yep.
So they got eaten by elder things, I'm guessing. 34 were killed after the war by Delta Green directly. And
the
so,
remaining 37 fled.
Basically, they joined the Odessa, fled Europe, and a lot of them got caught by Delta Green because
Delta
they
Green?
offered
No, Delta Green and Mossad.
Delta Green, Mossad,
Yeah.
or alternatively, they tried other rituals and just, I don't know, got eaten by a ghoul or the hound or
And
went
remember,
insane
this
from
is the
rats in the walls.
1990s. I believe
And-
Hitler would have been over 100 years old. Most of the
No.
Nazis in high command are dead.
Right. By 56, though, Delta Green's pretty much determined that I think we got all of them. They're either dead from old age, mishap, or disease. The other bit about this, and I love this, is that one of the people you remember that NKVD guy
Yes.
that was captured? Well, he was killed in 53 during that Delta Green raid on that Stalin life extension program.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
that reminds me. Another reason, if you're wondering why the whole Argentina thing is a thing, besides conspiracies, it's because a lot of Germans emigrated to Argentina during the
And-
early 20th century,
yeah.
late 19th, and that really affected the cultural zeitgeist down there.
And Perón, I'm going to be blatantly honest from my research, Perón was an honest, open fascist.
Yeah, he also kind of
he
was like,
always
let's
danced
take them
around it.
in because they could be really useful.
He was never out and admitted it, but his practices and everything, he was a fascist.
No, he has said in the past he admired some of the dynamics of leaders like Mussolini. He also advocated Peronismo was very mutable, much because it wasn't really a strong ideology in general. It's just do everything you can to stay elected or stay in power. This is actually why Perón was a big fan of bolstering trade unions, which, if you think about it, it's actually pretty similar to some strains of fascism, which relies on unionism to stay in charge. Spain and Italy both liked using that variant. So that's why and also they were relatively sympathetic in some respects to the Germans. Anti-Semitism was at its strongest there in South America. It was already an effect there. So that, and the fact that historically real Nazis escaped down there, like good old Dr. Mengele, makes a lot of sense.
Also, not Nito, deep ones are amphibious. They cannot be kosher.
They are treated as amphibious, and on top of that, given that they are human descended, it is also technically a form of cannibalism.
Also, do remember, according to the Bible, God did beat Dagon, so
that too.
Yeah.
Also, Scroll Killer brings up, I think the reason I'm not the biggest fan of Majestic, it's the same reason I'm not the biggest fan of the Exarchs. It's that overlooming threat scenario concept. I lose a lot of interest in those types of organizations. I'm not a fan of the Exarchs for the same
they're a
reason
background
Mage.
threat because, quite frankly, they
they're a
view Delta
genuine threat.
Green. Yeah, they view Delta Green basically as a group of domestic terrorists
Which
that are
they are.
potentially about to leak the state secrets to the world.
Well, there's also the matter that Majestic, legitimately, they have an invested interest in squashing cells, mainly because on more than one occasion they'll just storm a government facility.
Yep.
They have done this, so I understand. And like I said, the 12 different branches, we could have covered more of it, but Karateka is more my speed, even if I'm not a fan of the Nazis forever thing.
So Karyotechia is now just 3 men in this Brazilian rubber plantation.
I'm surprised the Society of Thule didn't kill them. That Hunter compact.
Dr. Frank, who is using life technology to preserve him in a ghastly state of half-life. Oberfürgalt, employing vile magics to maintain his youth. And Dr. Beatrich seems to have survived to the present through the force of his own will. They all have their own agendas, but they want
Oh my
this
god,
great
this is fucking Hellboy.
triumvirate to work together to resurrect National Socialism, destroy the Jewish race, and create a glorious Aryan Fourth Reich.
Dude, you don't understand. This is literally a Hellboy shitpost. This is like the early stories where you actually see these characters in the movie, in the Del Toro movie.
So underneath this triumvirate,
okay, I know what they're going with. Do we have the ape cyborgs?
We do not. I will get to what they have later.
Cyborgs.
They have 12. So they have Die Schaffenfiguren, the chess pieces, the most powerful after the 3, of which means I have no idea who's the queen, who's the king, and they're missing a piece. There are 12 Aryan Bischof, a cabal of powerful wizards dedicated to the Fourth Reich. Below them are the Ritter, hundreds of knights, attended by members of Third World Security Services, criminal organizations, terrorist groups, and mercenaries. Considering the racial makeup of a lot of Third World populations, I guess they're using this as like a meat grinder?
No, you don't understand. This is exactly like the modern far right, where it's mostly brown people who pretend they're white.
Yeah, right, yeah. But then you have thousands of Baron, pawns. These are lab assistants, staff, and guards.
That actually reminds me, this is something the FBI to this day still does. They will intentionally try to set up people to, essentially as pawns, go crazy with far-right garbage. Like advocate instance, for them to do things that could get them into prison, and then turn them into assets. A lot of them are fed assets.
I was thinking of the example of
like Sutter, Mr. I wanted to bring was it Kampuchea but Nazi to America.
Which guy?
Joshua Sutter is one.
You're gonna have to be more specific.
Sutter's one. The guy behind Atomwaffen was another.
I was thinking like the guys who wanted to eliminate the Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and it was like, I think half of that organization were federal.
Half of them had already been basically, the FBI had already been there, already found them, already told them, look, you can be an informant for us, or you can go to jail for a long time.
Yeah. But let's see. The Bauern are actual like white supremacists carrying out covert assignments.
So just imagine your current modern day. I mean, this is 1990, so they're going to try to shoot for more skinhead, but it'll be the same. It'll just be mostly insecure people who, yeah. Like let's be honest, a lot of them probably will look extremely Turkish and or Mexicano.
Yeah. Well, they'll say they're honorary Aryans.
I mean, in reality, Karyoteka will just use. I mean, they're pawns for a reason.
Yeah, but their main operation to bolster their forces are Die Untoten. They are bringing back Nazis' most recognizable villains as undead. Obergruppenführer Joseph Dietrich, responsible for the Night of the Long Knives. Reinhard fucking Heydrich has been resurrected.
That's trying too hard.
You'll get to why in a second.
SS Obergruppenführer Theodor Ick.
Oh hell, that fucker.
Yep.
No, if you're wondering why, Ick is responsible for the initial concentration camps, and on top of that, like, he was mentioned several times in the charnel houses of Europe because of his role in building those things.
Yeah. But thankfully you can show him again.
He also created the Death's Head division.
Yeah, those guys.
Oh, and the action groups.
Yep.
Yeah, the Otto Skorsky.
Otto Skorsky, which is Skorsky is weird.
He's an interesting fellow
who did actually survive until 75.
Well, yeah, he was head of the
died of cancer.
Yeah.
Jock and Piper? Or
If I
Pieper?
remember, the wildest thing about Scorsese is I think he worked with the Mossad at one point.
He did. He also is Austrian, if I recall.
Like, he really
Yeah.
didn't have a political opinion on anything. He's just like, I just want to do weird shit and crazy fucking
Which I
stuff.
feel
Well,
like
no,
you
he
could be
had
like, okay,
some.
listen, we'll
had
no, in this
some.
like we could counter him. We'll keep you alive. Just turn against the caretaker. You'd be like, fuck it.
Don't get me wrong, he's an interesting historical meme, but like that's the thing. He's kind of become history's version of Batman, where he's kind of just he appears anywhere you need a badass in that time period.
But
I mean,
finally, hold
Scorsese is
on.
just weird as like even as like a normal person. Like, his
Yeah, hold on.
psychology is all over the place.
They finally resurrected Joseph Mengele.
They did, yes.
For what fucking reason?
Drowned in a pool, by the way, at the age of 67.
Oh, I know what they. It's to do the twin experiments again. To make the overmind.
They didn't work.
To make the Gestalt overmind.
You're wizards. Why do you need his science?
But there's also a few other
Magic is just
interesting...
science really advanced.
So what they and then through the Baron, they have connections to the Cali drug cartel, far right Masonic lodges, Coalition
South
for the Defense of
African,
French Culture,
apartheid government.
of course. Latin American Officer Corps.
Also, don't forget that they are responsible for several interesting Islamic extremist groups.
Yep.
Sword of Allah, the Jihad for the eradication of Zion.
Latin
connections
Arabic
to other-
ones are held in much lower esteem and neither asked to join the staff nor receive promotions.
Also, on
A
top
lot of
that,
others
they
are...
have ties with the mob.
Yep, the mob, drug cartels.
Oh, and the Bratva, the Organizatia, one of the first organized Russian drug cartels.
Well, of course they would. You know,
Fun.
like, why wouldn't they?
Well, also,
This, though-
dark irony,
but-
because of the Soviets, neo-Nazism is at its strongest in former Soviet breakaways, mainly in Russia.
Yeah.
Yes. Because remember, it wasn't you who had any problems. No, comrade. You were misled by the lies of the fascists. You have no responsibility whatsoever.
It was all the West and the Jews' fault.
Well, it's also that fuck the government I'm currently under. What's the most opposite I can be?
Nazi.
Yep.
But the thing is, but above all of them
So-
is Adolf Hitler.
Yes, because Karyoteka has summoned the spirit of Adolf Hitler.
He's become the sun and the lightning, akin to Buddha or Jesus. But in reality, he is Neo-Lothotep.
It's the
Neo-Lothotep
Black Arrow. Hell yeah.
Is fucking with the
all
Nazis.
Of those, yes. So all of those leaders that you thought were brought back, you know, like Scorsese, the
It's
resurrected,
one of his
all
1,000
that.
faces.
It's literally just Nyarlathotep fucking with them.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
That is
Okay.
that. It is not actually those people resurrected.
Okay.
It's just
Nyarlathotep
fucking with them.
Okay.
Well, no. I think
I know what
just
they're going with it. I love it.
I think the Hitler they are summoning is Nyarlathotep. I think they're just turning. They're just taking the bodies of these Nazis and just resurrecting them.
Well,
as
how
undead.
they don't have their bodies.
Most of them.
Some
don't,
of them
yeah.
they would.
No, they
Some
don't.
of them they would.
Most of them they
Mengele.
don't.
They
What
wouldn't
about
have
return?
the bodies
What
of
about?
Dietrich. They wouldn't have Heydrich at all. Ike, I
You're
don't
right.
think they
You're
ever
right then,
recovered
yeah.
his body.
Yeah, perhaps.
Wait, does that mean occasionally they're like, "Mein Führer, what shall we do?" and that you just hear him screaming for no reason in his basement?
Not even kill the Jews.
No, not even that. Like just howling in madness. Like just.
So no, well, hold on. Here is what Nyarlathotep's plan is: connect as many white supremacist groups together, creating a network, and then finally introduce them to worship of Azathoth,
Which is
Fun.
kind of brilliant.
which means he will kill them all
That's fantastic.
because Azathoth is pure insanity and nothingness.
Oh no, he's not nothingness. He is reality
He's
itself.
literally. He's just fucking with them. I want to note that he's just fucking with them.
No, I like this.
It's also why I say like that the Untoten are literally just they're just parts of Nyarlathotep. That's it. They're not actually resurrected Nazis. They are eldritch beings that are faces of the Great Worm that just are pretending. It's amazing.
No.
It's so good.
No, it also makes sense. Like all the, it'd be really funny. What is it? Other face of me. We should totally get these Turkish and Arabic people who want to claim to be Aryan. Oh yeah. Let's have these guys prove how racially pure they are by working with people they see as inferior.
Exactly.
Actually, no.
Exactly.
I could see at the end, like Beater's dying. It's like, my Fuhrer, what do you have to say to me?
And he
looks
just
at
turns
them.
black and he goes, "Sup,
No,
nigga."
no, he says, Shalom.
No. He tears his face off, and underneath is like the stereotypical merchant saying, "You fell for it, Goyim." And you hear the idiot flute players of Azathoth playing as they're all dying and their brains exploding. But it's
you're hearing klezmer music.
You're hearing Seabat, except that it's done by a fucking eldritch band. Anyway,
the Azathoth is senselessly blowing a bunch of shofars that he shoved in its many mouths.
In any case,
I may be an eldritch being of unknowable terror, but what you did in World War II is just not cool.
The Black Soul or Crawling Chaos is just a fucking in real life prankster streamer.
He's just fucking with them. Literally, he's just fucking with them because they're asking for magical power and using like all this old witchcraft stuff, which Nyarlathotep is canonically in the Lovecraft universe connected to quite deeply. So of course,
responsible for giving witches their power. Yes, usually.
Yes. So when we get into some of this fun stuff is where they talk about how you can get Delta Green agents involved in all this, which is that you have a neo-Nazi group get involved with the theft of some occult artifact, which of course raises Delta Green's attention.
Or a really fucked up hate crime that looks occultish and outlook.
Right, which can then lead to an entire fun campaign where your objective is to go and find and destroy the Karyoteca. That can be an entire campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one I like a lot more because it's a bit goofier, but it's also just literally it's the Eldritch stuff that. I'm sorry, but if Delta,
it's what you prefer. Yeah.
Also, so yeah.
It's not that I don't like the alien thing. It's just for some reason with the way Majestic's handle. I think it's because of how directly.
You just prefer these guys.
Well, no, it's because of how directly they mess with those with Delta Green clearance. I think that might be why.
Yeah. But no, one thing with Olaf and Nyarlathotep, it turns out he's been fucking with him for decades.
I mean,
he appeared to him as Frederick the Great, Bismarck, Nietzsche, Anamarius, Siegfried, literally guiding him towards this destination of which canonically he will be fucking killed by.
I have gaslit you for your entire life just to see what you do.
Yes.
Like look at that guy. Look at him. You don't even need the swastika behind him and he looks evil.
No, actually the expression on his face, that's the last face he makes right before his brain explodes because he's seeing the demon Sultan just flopping around crushing him. That's the face of a man who realized his life's work was one gigantic troll by a fucking shit poster.
Yeah, some of the other guys, Oberfuhrer Reinhard Galt, learned about cannibalism from a Congolese tribe, and not just collects recipes for cannibalistic cuisine all over the world.
It also keeps him immortal, sort of like a ghoul. It's very interesting. I find Galt very fun as like a villain because, I mean, look at this.
He's tried recently a minimalist approach to culinary preparation.
Yeah, I just realized that he's basically if Richard Upton Picton became a SS officer.
Yeah, he's great.
For those wondering, that's the artist who drew a lot of ghoul stuff in Pickman's model. He also indulged in the victuals of the flesh.
I mean, they even talk about like he's just like the fucking worst person, and it's great.
Well, no, the best part is this is the type of person who would sit down in the sewer, like in the subways of Germany, just to talk with his ghoul friends.
Right, and you can see all of his like rituals and magical stuff, and what he's got available, and he's killable. but
They're
he's
all
just
killable. Yeah.
also really tough. Like
And then the last guy, Frank, is
Dr.
just
Frank. I like
is
this
just an
guy.
old wizard.
He is a wizard that's using the
Oh, he's
he's
using.
what is the
Oh yeah,
This is a
the
reference to
cool
the one
air?
about the cool air.
Yeah.
They actually do bring it up. Using chemical and
Yes.
pharmacological treatments discovered among the papers of the renowned Spanish physician Dr. Javier Munoz.
Yep.
He treated the terminal cancer with its ravaged his body. Now,
Also-
why the
also a
fuck
slight nod
the
to-
fuck he's in the middle of the jungle?
Well, that's the thing. He has his own little thing in the middle of the jungle that he
His
cannot leave.
hacienda.
He's stuck there. He's stuck there. He can't leave.
I'm just okay, Bittern's like, what can I do, mein Fuhrer? Unplug this old man's refrigerant. But it'll kill him. It'll amuse me.
Yep. Up
Okay.
next is a less serious group, which is Saucer Watch, which is basically
Also, I like that he kind of looks a bit like Mr. Freeze because that implies that he is necrotic, like slightly necrotic because of the purpling.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Saucer
Watch.
Watch. I think I might bounce on these guys pretty good. These could be
So-
pretty
Saucer
fun.
Watch is
They are-
basically every UFO person you can ever imagine. That's Saucer Watch. You really
Okay,
don't need to
yeah, I
go
like
into
how
much
these
more
guys
detail
go.
on them.
Yeah, they're basically here to show up to perhaps be a lead-in or to be a contact for Delta Green. Although they don't
thing-
they've got things like a guy doing hypnosis regression tests. They've got a whole bunch
Forensics.
of magazines talking about this stuff, connections to investigations to what's going on in Britain.
Because the United Kingdom has some pretty strong ufology as well.
Yeah.
Because of its,
Um,
it has basically the United Kingdom had a very strong spy idealization because of James Bond, and that kind of influenced how it handled conspiracy theories in general. A lot of people tried to play at being James
Yeah,
Bond.
they have an actual psychic on staff. There's a bunch of fun stuff with them. I
Now,
think they're great.
Majestic has sent someone to infiltrate them, but he's turned because their regression hypnosis guy was gay, and so was this agent, and they kind of fell in love, and also the NRO Delta agent kind of agreed with what they were doing.
They're kind of like, huh. These people aren't that bad. They're not really evil. Why do we care about them?
Yeah, I like the writing here. For the defrocked psychiatrist, Denton Schaefer, Harry would be the best, single best word to describe Dr. Schaefer. His long, thick brown hair meets up with a full beard and drips down to his chest and back to form a suit fit for an extra on Planet of the Apes.
He has the Chewbacca physique, aka mine.
Yeah, holy shit. He's also pretty darn tall.
Yeah. Then I like Donald Lang. Donald Lang knows. He knows there hasn't been a real election in this country since the secret coup on the 22nd of November, 1963. He knows that the same crew that killed JFK, Bobby, Dr. King, Malcolm, and Marilyn also cooked up this aid stuff and are bringing crack away for free in the inner city to destroy racial minorities. He knows the government has those aliens on ice in Hangar 18 and has been protecting the invaders' secret base in Bermuda Triangle since the start of the Cold War. Not that there ever was a Cold War, just a ruse so that the guys running the show could militarize their societies and keep the people down while they dined on champagne and long pig. Are you listening to me? Do you understand? There is a war on for your mind.
I love that he is completely correct, though, about one thing and one thing only.
The aliens on
that the NSA is watching him.
Yeah. He has yet to connect the Challenger shuttle disaster to Waco, but he's working on it.
Just to give you an idea on the UFO watch kind of guys. Speaking of which, do they show what their type? Oh, they don't. I was going to show what their websites are, what the websites of back then were like, because I have modern versions of that.
Yeah,
I'm going to show you
fun.
the modern versions of ufology.
Up next is the Fate. And the Fate are fun. Like, remember how you were talking about how I want more eldritch enemies and all that?
That's the ATF.
That's the
Here
Fate.
it is. This is the UFO. This is what current UFO websites look like. It's very simple, but a lot cleaner than they were.
Yep.
Very political.
Earth's liberation from the deep state and joining the galactic community.
Listen, exopolitics is one of the funniest things.
I would look into it. It is quite fun.
It's pretty fucking wild.
But the Fate is even weirder. Because there's this guy, Stephen Azales, a thin, fine-looking Arab with a chopped accent, and a penchant for not dying. He may have died several times. Died 15. Most recent in a 1987 plane crash. When he was next seen in passing, he says, "Yes, I was killed in the plane crash. Quite enlightening, I must say." We don't know who the fuck he is. He
Or
may
what
be
he
near
is.
Lothotep, or
More
not.
okay. Here's my thought on that one. He's a Migo.
That would make sense.
Or he just
Think
is.
about it.
No, well, no. I think he just is.
Or he could be a particularly powerful sorcerer like Prim, who made the Vermis Mysterious, and he also was able to defeat and cheat death multiple times.
But he has the network. All other crime syndicates live in fear of this guy and this network.
And I love this. I love this whole thing about him where you're never sure whether or not he is an alien, a person that is just a really, really powerful sorcerer, an actual avatar of an eldritch horror. It doesn't really matter
So
because
the network, what it does, it extorts the extortionists
I can take or
because they
leave this one.
because they probably tried to, not prevent the network from taking a cut out of their profits, and then one of their members' skin fell off, and the other one was devoured by something that was wet and smelled of lead. And after that, they kind of just stopped worrying about it. They just paid up when it came. So they know how to get to people. They know how to find people. Say a 14-year-old boy with blue eyes and an odd birthmark who answers to Gabriel, and then steal them away.
Yeah, I can take or leave this. Like I said, this one,
And then his sorcerers are the lords, and the guys who are basically their apprentices are the adepts. But they
This
all
is
meet up.
basically what
Yeah,
if
they
Mage Circle but crime.
more
kind of.
accurately, what if the Wire but Cthulhu?
Yeah, I can see it.
And this is why I like these guys a lot. Is it's like
Oh
if you
god,
want your Call of Cthulhu game to be more criminal investigation,
fucking
well, you're trying
Marlowe.
to break into this, and it's a great way to get other parts of.
Yeah, as I said, fucking Marlowe as a Lord of Nightmares. Just
I don't have
you need a
context for
bot.
this, so
Watch The Wire.
like I
But they
said,
all
I can
meet up at
take or
this
leave this one.
great place, Club Apocalypse. It's on the Upper East Side, at the end of a strip of yuppie shops beneath the Tees Plaza, past a walk down of 31 steps.
They have a guest list.
Journalists are not allowed in.
I think that it was confirmed that they're one of the
Oh, they're
jokes.
gone.
I think was, yeah, one of the jokes was like that Cheney was on the list.
Perhaps, because we do know that the owner, Rupert Hauer, looks like in his 20s, but officially is 54. He was apparently originally at the factory with Andy Warhol, but they got into a squabble with Warhol over who would manage the Velvet Underground. Apparently, Hunter S. Thompson is an infrequent but welcome visitor at this place, which, yeah, would make sense for Hunter. If you are able to enter this club, you'll find more on the wall leading to the entrance to the dance floor are more than 40 black and white photographs. Each portrays Hubert, his plain, still face giving no expression, shaking hands with famous stars such as Elvis, John Lennon, Harry Nelson, Sid Vicious, Jim Morris, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, on and on. In each photo, even though there's a personal description and a date written on it, he appears in the exact same clothes and pose with the exact same expression as if each photo was taken in rapid succession.
Again, what makes this thing work is it's really kind of creepy, and that's what's fun.
And because there is the club, then there's the lower rooms. There's the second one, second floor with the second dance floor. Then there's the first ancient sublevel with many cells
Yeah.
and a drainage pipe in the middle.
By the way, if you're wondering, I'm pretty sure this is a big nod to Murder at Red Hook.
It is.
And then even more.
Interestingly,
The
much
pit.
like Lovecraft, I never was a big fan of Murder at Red Hook.
Neo, the Epstein Files Cthulhu edition. That is, to be quite honest, 100% what the fate is.
But yeah, fun fact, Lovecraft, his top 3 least favorite stories he ever wrote, one of them was Herbert West Reanimator, mainly because it was designed to be formulaic, like they had to summarize each part previously. So that's why he didn't like it. He just had to do it for money. But he also did not like Murder at Red Hook because that was him at his. This was during his New York period where he fucking hated being there.
I wouldn't say hated. I would say fucking terrified.
No, he hated it too.
Oh.
Like even without the different people, he would have just hated it. He didn't like the noise of New York.
Yeah. I do like this with the important. Well, so beforehand, using the Club and Fate, perhaps to connect more with occultism. Azales is aware of Delta Green's existence. They've even killed him once or twice, but he doesn't consider them a threat. Just a tool.
Also, the site owner is often a contact.
There's also a great shotgun scenario someone made of you going on a date with him.
Okay.
That's actually one of my favorite ones where it's literally like, hey, yeah, so he just wants to talk to you.
And that should
Which,
freak you the fuck out.
yeah.
Because as they say, with Stephen Azales, no stats are provided for him. He can be whatever you want to be, God or man, but there is one thing he is not. He never is. Vulnerable. And I'd like to point out is that there are stats for Cthulhu, for Azathoth, for Nyarlathotep. There are no stats for Azils.
I'm sorry. This is making me rethink. I think I'm going back with fondness towards Majestic. I am bouncing hard on Fate.
Yeah, they're kind of a bit also kind of just stuck in New York.
Well,
You do
there's
get
just something about how it's written that just with Majestic, it's because it's so encompassing, but the concept of an alien branch kind of being working in them, that's very X-Filesy. You can do stories on that. Classic Karateka is much more involving the Lovecraft, which is why I was more interested there. This is just it's a Satanist club with like a god being that's unkillable. It's basically Cain with just you fucking lose. Eh. Yeah, I have to agree with Nonito.
I guess
I rate it I rate this Canadian.
I guess if you're having adventures in New York, this would definitely be a.
Gonna be honest,
like
Chicago by Night had a much better nightclub run by a demon.
All right, let me be clear here. The reason why I think the Fate works really, really well is that you're taking the idea of the Fate as this is how non-Delta Green FBI agents can get drawn into Delta Green, especially in a New York branch. That's their purpose, and that's what they work best as. You're playing a crime investigation game simultaneously with your Call of Cthulhu.
I still probably wouldn't use them.
And I think that the problem because they are very limited to New York, although you could definitely put this in Chicago or San Francisco or.
It's just I don't find the leadership and the people that they put staffing this interesting.
I think in some of the other books they staff out more of the lords.
It doesn't matter. This is my first
so you wanted fun
exposure to
sorcerers
them.
to fight.
Well, if I wanted that, I'd just fight the Karateka. They got a bunch of them.
Yeah, fair.
I don't know. Like with Majestic,
I guess
you kind of caught me because the first half of this conspiracy book really hammers home because narratively in the 90s, it's coming to a head with Majestic. Majestic killed one of your own. You're trying to figure out why. That's a big meta plot thing. That's why I'm not interested in it. As an organization, it's extremely interesting. It has a lot of varieties, ranging from they're communicating with aliens to they're augmenting people into human hybrid monstrosities. There are a lot of wet works projects there, a lot of options, and a lot of campaign material. Karatech is classic goofy Nazi occultism, which is always fun. This has a kind of more hardcore Satanist crime element. The problem is, I just don't find the leadership that interesting.
Yeah, fair.
Especially since you
Look,
have Mr. Unstatable, I'm super badass man. Okay. I get it. He's unkillable. Okay. It's the same reason why if I did a Planescape story, I probably wouldn't mention Miss Leader of Sigil that much.
what do you mean, the Lady of Pain? Oh, she'll be. Oh no, I'm in the maze.
Yeah.
But
Oh
moving
yeah,
on
they
to the
give details on
yeah.
each of them. They do give details on some of the major lords, like the guy who runs it. I accidentally kind of revealed he's an undead abomination, unfortunately.
Yeah, Belial is a Cern of Galaki, who,
Who?
though funny enough, does not like to be called like the Lord of Life, and does not want to be a mindless undead man.
Okay. I kind of forget who Galaki even is.
He's Clark Ashton Smith creation.
That would be why. I've really only read a couple of Block and all of
Yeah.
Lovecraft, some of Block's, a little
Like
bit of
actually, funny
Howard.
enough, the other guy here, this Lieutenant Jorge Ramirez, attacked by what he described as a bloated, headless corpse with mouths for hands. If you know that reference, well, don't say his name.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
But the final thing here is the appendices, which goes
Appendices are
into
really, really useful.
yeah,
This is
describing what the
very useful.
FBI is in the 90s. And as we brought up before, FBI's culture is influenced by Protestant Christianity, uh, heavily influenced by Hoover's paranoid leadership. Mandatory retirement is at age 57. And then they bring up the oversight, of which mobile
What
video cameras
oversight?
are rare. Um, they can operate with significant impunity if they take a bare minimum of precautions.
Yep. The FBI was still able to get away with a lot of shit even during this
Uh,
period.
There is so much you can get away with at this time. You are expected to use bureau issued credit cards, but oversight of those purchases is uneven. For security reasons, senior level employees are never questioned about their purchases.
Yeah, as long as you're
Um,
able to explain it away, like if you're gonna run a cell, having a Fed on staff is not a bad idea to get resources for it. If you can, being the key word. There is the negative though that since it's very cliquish already, yeah, your buddies might be curious on what you do every now and again on the weekend.
yeah. The other
And you
thing
can't really say
interesting.
that you went to the Satanist nightclub to deal with information from the dead guy about the soulless flesh sucking leech monster that lives in the sewers.
Yeah. The other interesting things here, you will very rarely use commercial travel. Instead, they prefer rental cars or Greyhound buses,
Yeah.
Yep.
which I
They were
guess
cheap ass
makes a
bastards.
bit sense of like having your operations be like in the Fate being in New York because you're not leaving New York.
Right. And for that matter, there's a massive FBI office in New York.
Yes. You also have with communications, you're going to be using proprietary interfaces such as America Online, Prodigy, or Genie. Google will not exist at this point. Your phone calls are landlines. You'll probably need to use a payphone. A senior agent could have
Cell
a
phones did
car
exist,
phone,
but they're extremely bulky.
or they'll have the large, antenna. Um,
No, I
simple
mean,
coverage is
I
going to
get
be
the
very
concept of
spotty.
the leader of Fate, a squirrel killer. It's just I never really find those characters interesting. I don't know. Like at that point, you're just telling me why don't I just make my own occult crime family? At that point, you know?
I call it the destiny.
No, I mean, I can come up with my own horrible ideas. I mean, after all, there's a lot of cultural traditions you can borrow from, especially since if you know Lovecraft, Reminder, just from his little sporking of Robert Bloch with the Haunter in the Dark. Reminder that it's the Italian community that is partially responsible for restraining the holder of knowledge in the church, because they knew the rituals and sigils to hold it back, as well as the fact that it hated light. You
But
can do a
other
lot
thing,
with just that sort of stuff. It's just something about him. Just I don't find him interesting.
let's see other things.
I think it's because he's
FBI,
so replaceable and you can make him so many things. I'm like, well, why don't I just make my
yeah,
own guy?
yeah, fair enough. The FBI, though, slow to adapt to modern communications,
Oh
still
God,
report,
yeah.
still using audio cassettes or handwritten notes. They don't get personal computers. As director Louis Free believed they would tie agents to their desk and prevent them from going out and doing aggressive investigative work.
Right, since they're extremely conservative, they have that sort of mindset. And nowadays, they also will leak the shit out of everything important because they're dumb enough to use chat rooms now.
Oh, now? Oh, they might be using AOL back then.
No, I'm
They
making fun
were.
of all the stupid government links used via via chat rooms nowadays.
Using what is
That's
stated to be
specifically the
secure chat
administration.
rooms. Yeah,
This is
that's.
specifically the administration, not
Eh,
the FBI.
I don't know. I feel like they'd be dumb enough to.
Well, there was that time, like two Secret Service agents got incredibly drunk while in it was Mexico. Incompetency runs throughout any administration.
Oh yeah.
But other things, there is the information of their
Ordnance, what they usually would go out and with load.
well, yeah, no, but interesting enough, so the ICS, the internal computer system, it is shared with all law enforcement agencies except for the CIA. It is only until late 2001 that they will share information.
I wonder what happened in 2001 that led to that.
But yeah, well, we'll figure that out in a few years. So the FBI at this point in time carry a medium pistol. And actually, they state below that they use a medium pistol because their heavier pistols are harder to fire and more expensive, as the FBI buys its pistols in bulk.
Yep.
However, it will be a shootout in 1986, which I believe left a few agents dead. That will actually increase the FBI's firepower.
That's why they can get their hands on an M16A2. They tend to use Remingtons for shotguns, and their heavier rifle ordnances tend to be in 308 Winchester or 7.62 NATO. They have other stuff like revolvers, special weapons, like the MP5. They can get their hands on them sometimes.
A special mention to the MP510, which was completely capable of defeating soft body armor in the era with jacketed hollow point rounds. For those not in the know, that's kind of fucking insane.
Also, the reason they got their hands on it was because another fun fact about the 90s is this was the era of armored bank robberies.
Ah, yes. What was it? Was it the LA
North
shootout?
Hollywood.
North Hollywood.
North Hollywood, basically, after that, a lot of law enforcement agencies needed to find a way to defeat armor.
And it just so happened that in the next few years, there would be a lot of military surplus and a lot of willingness to give it to our law enforcement.
I mean, we're not fighting the communists no more, so what are we going to do with it?
But as I said, in the next few years, we'd find out, and yeah, it would turn out to be international terrorists.
That too. Yep,
I do
here's all
like
their kit. There's
that
also
they do
unauthorized options.
actually they
Unauthorized
give
options.
very detailed guns.
Also classifications because, yeah, as a Fed, uh, you don't necessarily work in the same branches. So you can work in Humant or Sigint, Archant or CI. Like basically, what field are you in, and what type of classifications you're
Yeah,
working with.
and yeah, unclassified, confidential, secret, top secret, as well as secondary classifications, such as things relating to nuclear weapons, things that can't be released to contractors like U.S. weapons and equipment. Don't worry though, in 2 decades they will be leaked on forums about a game regarding the use of other countries' militaries.
Yeah, War Thunder's kind of garbage. Come
But
at me,
yeah, no, like
weirdos who
they
leak
have
this stuff to prove their nation's stuff isn't trash.
but
And
yes,
then
they have a whole bunch of stuff about the glossary of the era.
Which is very useful to
And
know, especially since, as mentioned, Delta as a Delta Green authorized person in a cell, you're probably working with the feds, or you at least have a fed in your cell.
right. They also have a large section for
like
uh
glossary.
Oh my God, they actually
like
show. They're actually trying to teach you. Okay, here's how you would, if you're a fed, this is how you would design your documentation.
You got to
yes,
remember your
Oh,
cover
I
sheets.
love that.
You got to have
yes,
your.
they've got the glossary, they've got that. After is though the really interesting section of this appendage, which is every sort of tome about the supernatural that you could just hand your players, including some stuff that you can scan for printouts.
Well, they also have, and they have this in the core rulebook as well. Um, the slang used by various intelligence and law enforcement agencies. The green triangle being uh, what is not real. Everything else has been used in real life.
Yep. Also, the green triangle is a way for you to hint at other cells potentially.
Well, it's for just Delta Green,
It's for stuff that's used in Delta Green Low.
Well,
like
yeah,
as they
but
give,
like if you mention this sort of stuff, you can use it as a probe, like in game.
like for instance, Bronson's. It's Delta Green slang for members of Majestic, referring to the Charles Bronson film Mr. Majestic.
Which is fun. I like that
And,
one.
but yes, they then give various manuscripts, such as The Case for the UFO, written by M.K. Jessup, is a scientific paper on UFO phenomenon. Uh,
I love these. These are
it
wonderful.
and
As
it does give sand loss.
yes, it gives details. There's the death report of that one doctor that they talked about. There's a few really fun ones. Dreams the Changeling is a fantastic tome.
And they also give then
Archaic
various
English, so we're talking about early modern English.
It's about ghouls, and it's great.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
but we then have actual printouts that you can use for these documents,
Yes.
like the Majestic report on the bucket, which is the recovered craft they found at Roswell.
Yep. They have a whole section on Operation Riptide, which is the Thresher incident.
The gods of Ponapech from
Miskatonic
Miskatonic
University.
Unit. Yeah.
They have to reference that. Why wouldn't they? They have a whole bit of Mein Triumph, which is a supernatural Hitler book.
AKA it's near all the time writing it as a shitpost.
There's the OSS order, which is pretty great.
Then there is the Seagate documents, which
is
it's the bloop. It is the
yes.
fucking bloop.
Nice.
Mhm.
Also, Regnum
Reported
Congo,
off.
which is what the cannibal guy has.
Yep.
Yep.
In which, funny enough, with the bloop one, they found obviously the recording of it. I was immediately told to hand this over to Oni and never talk about it again.
Oh, there's also the tag of which ties into a later Delta Green investigation to a degree.
Yes, it allows you to activate the ritual consciousness expansion, which try it. It'll expand your mind.
I like these top secret documents that you can just kind of print. Look at all this.
There's the Thurston documents, or the Thurston papers, which then talks about
it's fucking Call of Cthulhu. It is the Call of Cthulhu.
It's the Call of Cthulhu Island.
No. It's the book. Or the
it
short
also
story.
includes the bloop.
Well, yeah,
it does.
The
Yeah.
Thurston
But no.
document, basically, the bloop may or may not have been a signal from the sunken city known as Relie.
I do like this with the Thirst paper. It's it created by a design student, Wilcox, from a vivid dream he had in 1925. He then describes seeing sculpture in a 1908 arcology conference. Then bring up the Louisiana voodoo cult.
Yeah, this is legitimately the Thurston report involves Call of Cthulhu. It's the short story.
And I forget if it's this one. There's another book that talks about this submarine crash from a German who woke up on an island, which is a
Yes,
reference
Dagon.
to
It's the
Dagon, which I
it's a
believe.
reference not necessarily to Dagon. It's not a German submarine. It was an American sailor who survived a submarine incident, which may have been connected to the temple because that's another Lovecraft
I think it
story.
was. I think that. Yeah, I think it is because it was one of Lovecraft's first writings.
Dagon was one of his first. Temple was another one.
Yeah. No. Let's see. Because apparently the bloop. It may have not been a bloop. It may have literally been,
Sunken
the
really geologically moving.
and the
Or dead
prayer to
Cthulhu
Cthulhu,
mumbling in his sleep.
and then various other rituals.
Like create gravitic warp.
Honor the
Yep.
Fuhrer. It is a chant in German uncomprehensible phrases invoking the immortal spirit of Adolf Hitler. Which you give this to Mossad, and then they just, I need to blow off the steam. Just shoot Hitler.
It just summons his spirit. It doesn't actually summon Hitler.
I know, but they could. It's like it's like punching a bag. It
right.
lets off some steam.
Then they have a bunch of bibliography for the reading, which is very, very, very nice. Written around the time too, which is very good. Always fun to see that.
Like I said, they did like you guys said, and like like this book is showing, they did a lot of research on this sort of stuff.
Oh, very much so.
The Bloop, aka Mother. No, we don't talk about what Dagon does to his wife.
Well, we do know he has children.
Yeah, it's a pretty good list to work with if you want more readings.
Oh, very, yeah. Actually, I like one of these. They literally just give the budget of the United States government fiscal year 1993. If you want a breakdown on what you could be getting in terms of money for your agency, this is where you go.
Yeah, it's genuinely useful. So, all in all, that is the conspiracies module, 1990s setting for Delta Green. I was actually surprised because unlike these two, like I mentioned, I've never really had an opportunity to play Delta Green, mainly because every time someone's mentioned it, they're like, "Oh yeah, I totally want to," and then it never happened. And I haven't looked at the because I have an older version of it. I haven't looked at that thing for shit that long.
I mean, I would be willing to run another Delta Green campaign. I just need people that are completely willing to do probably iconoclasts is one that I really want to give a shot.
But
Oh, that would be fun.
I haven't seriously looked at Delta Green for fuck at least 7 years, 8 years, at least
It,
seriously.
it's and it's to me having, I guess, a experience with the federal government
Oh no, like
of
this
just
was insightful. I
how yeah. Again, if you get somebody who knows their shit, it can be really fun. And even if you don't, you basically just go off of X Files.
no, this was insightful because, like I said, when I thought of Delta Green, I kind of interpreted it as more of an X Files thing. But it's less that and it's less Vascu than it is you're an unofficial group of former government dudes essentially picking up the pieces.
The other thing I've liked about
I
Delta Green as
I
well
didn't know that. Like this is new.
is is the fact that it does world build on Lovecraft and in a way that is it feels natural almost that like these intelligence agencies would inevitably find information about this,
Well, I mean,
and in most cases get fucked by
It's
them.
I
it's
mean, in
already
several cases in
in.
Lovecraft's works that happened. Like the Innsmouth raids did canonically happen in his works. Another example is the destruction of Exham Priory after what was discovered underneath it. Governments are at least somewhat aware. They just don't really play with it.
And
And
like
actually,
my
here's the thing: for all I kind of initially railed on Majestic, I'm rounding back to it. Do you want to know why? Because there is a third part. Because Haunter in the Dark was actually the response to Robert Bloch killing Lovecraft in his story. Lovecraft then did it to him, and then there was a sequel written after his death by another person, which had the another character get possessed by the Black Pharaoh as a government scientist. So this is not necessarily the first time the government has been played patsy to agents like the Migo. Like, this is not the first time eldritch entities have worked with the government. So it
And I
actually
think
makes sense. Like, Majestic doing this makes sense.
and one thing that at least
And each
it does.
each threat actually gives you a different energy and a different vibe. Majestic is you're playing the conspiracy cranks in the government fighting, well, actual agents of an extraterrestrial force that you don't know about. Like, you're uncovering the corruption in the government, and it gets really ugly. With the Nazi guys, you're basically playing Hellboy. You're playing the RFID, essentially.
The other thing that I
And with
think
Fate,
just
you're basically doing
yeah,
Goodfellas, but there's a Shogoth.
what also gets me, it's more with the modern Delta Green, is the fact that due to the increasing federal authority, there is a lot that you actually can get away with that is legal.
Another thing about the cells with Delta Green is you can actually do a lot of interesting mind games with the players. Like, for example, one of our chatters actually mentioned that they played a jarhead. They played one of the Roughnecks. He thought he was on a government mission the entire time. Nope. Sorry, buddy. Unpaid labor.
The other thing also is really, if you are not prepared, lethality will fucking kill you.
I mean,
It
in
is
honesty,
very
Call of
easy to
Cthulhu is
die.
highly lethal anyway.
Call of Cthulhu usually isn't, oh yeah, no, there's just a chance you just instantly fucking die from certain attacks. Just like
Yeah,
no
there are
save,
certain attacks
nothing.
which you roll a percentile and you don't take damage, you just die.
You stop existing. Like, this is an evolution from Call of Cthulhu. It's basically from that. Uh, all in all, I'd
It
actually
speeds up
say this
combat
is
considerably with automatic weapons.
all in all, I'd say this is a pretty good source book. I would say good, mainly because it gives you some really useful insight if you're playing a Fed. It gives you a lot of characters to play with. Yeah, here's the thing. I may not have liked Fate, but that's just because I could cook up something like that pretty quickly.
So I think not Nito, I do see the idea of Delta Green Ice. They are in the main book.
Yep.
They're in the
You
main
plays
book.
it
We
not
didn't cover that because it's not in this splat. I would say this is a pretty good source book. It just gives you what you need. It gives you everything you need to know about Delta Green clearance and how it works as a system. It also tells you
and
what your antagonists are. And it does a pretty decent job at, well, I don't think it separates itself as much as it could. So this is more of a handler's book.
It is, but
yeah.
there's decent sections.
No, I mean, there's useful sections for players. Like, this was very enlightening for me since, like I said, I have not really read the Delta Green books since like 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
And
Like a long time ago. Different edition
and
too.
and as Will Killer points out is that it technically now is a historical setting, and I think in some ways it helps understand the 90s and breaks a bit of that nostalgia that people will have because we look at the past and it seems to be a little bit more of a nicer time. It's like, no, there were so many things fucking wrong in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, like Ruby Ridge, Waco, the conspiracies, black helicopters. There was a lot of things. The L.A. riots, the crack epidemic, which is still going on.
Daikatana.
Daikatana was one of the great. Daikatana was actually a failed attempt to destroy humanity's psyche. I think it was a project by the Migo to understand how humans interpreted video games.
I could see John Romero being an alien.
No, John Romero was told by the Migo, "We want you to make our video game for us."
Oh, when they brought their servitor, John Carmack.
Yeah,
He's the
what
alien.
happened was John Carmack was the servitor, and this was the Migo attempting to understand how to make an enjoyable video game for humans. It didn't go well. Many deaths were involved when the cells had to stop when the cells had to storm id. Oh,
Also, yes,
like I said,
yeah,
I think this
it
is a
is
pretty good book.
yeah. This is now a historical setting, but I mean, technically, well, yesterday was a historical setting if you think of it in that way. But again, I do really like Delta Green. They
Yeah,
really
I
show
think you
their work
guys
in
really
this.
like it much more than I do, but I'd say this is a good splat. It's informative, and now that I actually know how Delta Green works, I'm now more willing to kind of play it that way. Because originally, like, let's say I was playing handler, if I was the handler, you guys would be really pissed because I would have handled it completely fucking wrong.
We're like, this is an actual official government agency with actual
It would have
rules.
been much closer to the 60s version. Yeah.
The
I, I,
60s
I,
version, even then, is not really an actual official government
I know.
agency.
I
It's
would have
a
fucked it up. I would have played it like Men in Black, man.
yeah, no, like
I would
the
I
whole
would have
point
I
of
would have taken
Delta
one
Green.
big squat and shat all over the lore because I would have
The
fucked it
funniest
up.
bit is that there is an agency that is sort of glossed over in this book a little bit, but it's very interesting, which is the British equivalent to Delta
Magic. I
Green.
saw it.
No, Pisces.
Oh, Pisces. I didn't see that one. I saw Magic though.
Pisces. Uh, if you're thinking of MJ Epic, that's the Canadian version, or M Epic.
Ah.
Anyway, the Pisces is very interesting in that Pisces is an actual official part of British military intelligence. They are Military Intelligence Unit Designation 13, MI13. Pisces is an abbreviation for paranormal investigation, like something something. Point is that Pisces has an actual budget, has an actual thing. They are legitimate. They have badges and shit. It's just that no one takes them fucking seriously because it's what they're dealing with. But they have all the investigative powers of the British government,
Yeah,
so
I
they
would have
can
I would
do
have just done
things.
a Pisces run. I would have played Delta Green like it was Pisces, and you'd be going, "Wait, that's
Yes,
not how that works." And I'd be like, "I don't know, going anyway."
I mean, yeah, and Pisces is great if you
Li-
want the
listen,
contrast between.
listen. The Prime Minister, she said that the Falkland Islands are full of aliens. We gotta go kill them.
No, no, no. What would happen is, so we got some
Boy, mate, you got that Shoggoth license.
No, actually, I was going to go with. So there was a bit of something. There's a bit of something hinky down here. How hinky are we talking? Well, I don't know. Some type of old ruins on these darn islands. Waves washed them up, and it's hinted it's an Elder Things city.
Yeah,
Because
Listen, we've got
reminder
to.
that at the end of the Elder Things colonization, southern South America was still settled by them. So having an outpost on the Falklands isn't exactly out of the ordinary.
I gotta
I mean, it's quite
listen.
fun.
Listen, we got to invade this location. There's a bunch of old guys worshipping, creating eldritch monstrosities, raiding Games Workshop.
You're joking, but you could have a games company be that's a parody of Games Workshop, and the Chaos Demons legitimately being fragments of an Elder Thing, or they're an
Like,
old one's cult.
look at those.
Yes,
I can't even look at those horrid figures. They're so
figurines.
unnatural. They're so unnatural. It's Games Workshop making female models before
No, no,
before
everyone watches it. They
2015.
they lose one sanity, so you think it's no, the model's just that bad.
The
However, the
model is just
other
that bad.
company, because you're doing like a
The
big
paint job.
you're doing a big filtering of all the games companies because you're kind of worried about this, like the profilization of occultism. At Games Workshop, you initially storm because you think, oh shit, yeah, I lost a bit of sanity. They have to be possessed. No, no, it's just their models are that shit, man. Their models are that shit when they're painted wrong. No, but
None
the
of them.
other company.
None of them thin their paints. The horror. The horror.
But no,
The
it's
other
like
thing
some
about
other minor company. Just make it up.
uh, the other thing about Pisces is that remember they were talking about the insects from Shagai.
Oh
Pisces
yeah.
got infiltrated by the insects from Shagai.
Oh.
They actually managed to take over part of the entire organization.
I knew the British
And
were controlled
the
by
funniest part about
aliens.
that is that they were actually doing the job of Pisces really, really well because they had an ability to detect mythos entities and deal with them. So Pisces got this reputation of sort of being kind of hyper competent that you just never hear about them because, well, they deal with the threats and they move on because they have these aliens literally in the heads of certain parts of their organization that are to prevent the Shigai craft from being discovered are basically distracting everyone else by saying, look, there's some Cthulhu cultists over here, we need to get rid of them, and sending all the agents out there before they ask questions about why he's drinking tea funny now. By the late 90s, there's parts of Pisces that have realized that, oh wait, no, Bob didn't just go on vacation, Bob got an alien shoved in his head, and start doing a counter purge where they finally managed to free the organization of alien infiltration. Slow clap, Pisces, competent.
It
And
does involve tree
then
panning, though.
it does involve trepanning for some of them. And then slow clap for Pisces, yay. Then 2001 hits, and the London bombings hit, and the war on terror starts. And every other part of military intelligence is considered way more trustworthy and reliable than Pisces, who supposedly had to deal with foreign infiltration to their highest echelons, as in moles, because not everybody's briefed on the actual truth of it, of course.
Womp womp.
So guess who gets all the funding? Well, Pisces is left with the dregs and with MI5 and MI6, both squabbling over the remains of what Pisces had built in the UK for informants.
Mm.
Because, well, why wouldn't they be? All these resources should be folded in here. Why does this small office get designated its own unit? They do nothing. They're a joke.
Which
So
does,
Thank you, Tony
and I
Blair.
feel like
Very cool.
you can replicate Delta Green, I think, to honestly any type of intelligence agency you want. You want to play as the Chad intelligence agency? Go ahead.
No, you're
I've had
missing one that I think would be really, really fucking interesting. There's two ideas I'm thinking of. Okay, one, you're part of SMERSH in the You're part of SMERSH in the NKVD/KGB. That's one
the
option.
GRU. Yeah, the GRU SVU-8 is the Russian equivalent of Delta Green.
But here's my other cursed idea. Romanian Securitate
Oh, that could be
under
fun.
Ceausescu.
Oh,
Another, my personal favorite ones that people have pitched is the French equivalent, because that would be not only kind of global,
Deuxième
but
Bureau.
really, really wild. Yes,
yep. I've
because
proposed again, like with the whole Vargina incident thing, Brazil,
subunit of BOPE.
You could do that.
subunit of something like that. But the other thing is, I'd like to think as a headcanon, all of these agencies actually existed in a Delta Green universe, and if they just worked together, they'd
Well,
be able
yeah,
to
because
actually stop shit.
half of this is they even talk about that with some of the original Delta Green material, where they mention like SVU-8 doesn't know that Delta Green became a not legitimate organization. They have no idea what was happening internally, because they were focused on internal supernatural threats, and they'd made contact with Delta Green before for cooperative operations on occasion, but they hadn't been like really in depth with them. So when the Iron Curtain falls, they reach out to those that they know were part of Delta Green that they had dealt with before, and were assuming that they were still legitimate, like they were, which is an interesting scenario in and of
Speaking of
itself.
interesting, reminder that Mexico's own private intelligence agency was dissolved, mainly because they had such
Yes.
strong ties to the narcos that
Yes, because they were using the narcos to do all their dirty work.
So what you could do is, okay, hear me out. You have the Mexican equivalent serve as that version of Fate. Like if you're doing a Delta Green campaign near the border, instead of having
Honestly,
Fate, you
I've
you
Delta
have
Verde.
Darko
I've had a
occultists.
whole thing where it's like the Federales had a Delta Green organization inside of them as law enforcement. And when the Federales were dissolved, well, of course these guys aren't going to be giving up the fight. But now they're basically running their own mini cartel that they're using to actually conduct their operations, because no one will look twice at a cartel killing if they have to get rid of somebody.
Like
Okay.
the actual cartel, the Knights Templar.
Yeah.
There was they were an anti-cartel.
Cartel. Yes.
Yes.
That's basically the idea behind these guys, and they're still in contact with Delta Green, who are still using them for operations south of the border because they're convenient scapegoats.
I think those are the only other
Uh,
ones I can think of for interesting intelligence bureaus. I mean, you could probably do something
uh,
with the People's Republic or alternatively in India.
India.
India would be interesting. One of the ones that I think would be
Egypt.
incredibly interesting would be Egypt.
Oh yeah, that would
Mostly,
be a good one.
mostly because, all right,
No,
Lovecraft Egypt.
okay, I
The
have
Well, I
source
would
of
something
all
more
evil.
fucked up.
Lovecraft Egypt, and then you have to deal with all of the problems surrounding them.
No, I have a really
Yes.
fucked up one. Okay, hear me out. The Amazon Brigade of Muammar Gaddafi's Libya was actually the public face for his anti-occult organization.
That's terrible.
So
Oh,
Charlie's
wait, no.
Angels, but you kick
No.
Cthulhu in the face.
No. What's Iran's agency? The
This is
Quds?
just a division of the Iranian Republican Guard.
Basically
Basically.
repurposed from Stavka.
You're having to go into like Syria or
Well,
or
welcome
worse,
to Iconoclasts.
or worse, no, Afghanistan. And you have
I mean,
and basically tensions are hot with the U.S., so you have to avoid United States patrols who will shoot you on sight.
there's a lot of stuff that you can do with Delta Green as a setting and as a concept that you can easily migrate over to other countries, which I think is part of the appeal of it.
I mean, the other thing I actually mentioned, because I think it kind of works out, you can use Delta Green as the framework for if you really wanted to. You could do like an SCP-themed game, like a skip-themed game on this.
Oh, very
You
much so.
could. The program very much in Majestic art is basically tailor-made as an analogy in some
You
ways
could
to it.
totally do that, yeah.
There's a lot of influence from Delta Green into the SCP Foundation, if only through cultural osmosis, because Delta Green was, for a lot of people, the conspiracy RPG.
So you could easily kind of hop it over, play them either as the equivalent of for Majestic, like you use Majestic's formation, or you can have the Delta Green equivalent be the Chaos Insurgency, where they're trying to break free of all this shit. But no, all in all, like I said, pretty good source book. I would argue it's pretty solid. I kind of bounced on some of them, but I also kind of like the concept. I think it's more of the meta plot kind of interfering with my appreciation for these more than what they are.
Well,
Also,
remember, this
with
is,
Fate, it's just I can make a crime family like that pretty quickly. You know?
the thing with this is this is material directly reprinted from the 90s.
Fair enough. So there's less material to work. Like, I get it. It's just this is just my hangups, you know? Still
They
rating it
do
a
a
good
lot
book.
to
It's a
expand
perfectly
a
good
lot of
book.
this, yeah. It's a book that's worth picking up if you're interested, even in the setting. It's
Speaking of which,
fantastic
Yeah.
I
background.
would recommend getting the core books, and I've actually linked to the store from Arc Dream Publishing. I recommend Delta Green as a whole. It's pretty solid, especially if you want a new flavor for Call of Cthulhu.
Oh,
And
very much
also
so.
feel free
And
to,
it's
to
very,
show up on our Discord for anyone new.
yep,
And if
it's
you
very
do,
easy also
if you do end up having that footage of the gorilla suit, please send it to us.
we want it. We will publish it. We will put it out there for people to see.
No lie, we
The,
totally
the
will.
the truth is out there.
We need to see the mulleted gorilla man. No, I get that Fate's more of an example than anything. It's just it's a combination of it's referencing Murder at Red Hook, which I don't like as much. I dislike as much as Lovecraft, to be honest. And I don't know. Unkillable characters kind of just dig into my head. Like I get their function. It's just kind of if you're busting them out, I think you kind of fucked up, you know. But no, like I said, Delta Green, good material, good splat. It's pretty darn good. And as for next week, huh? What will we do next week?
Grab bag.
I mean, I'd have to dig through my garbage for that. Because here's the thing, a lot of RPG shorties, they still are usually long enough to do a video on, or to do a stream on that's like about an hour. We can think of something. Heck, we
Well,
might
yeah,
even do more Delta Green, who knows?
yeah. There's always the green box.
Either that or we can dig through some more World of Darkness stuff. For example, we could cover some changeling stuff, like Changeling the Dreaming.
I feel like save some of that stuff for October. It's going to be Halloween month.
Fair enough. We'll figure
Well,
something out. It'll be fine.
Yep.
and remember, we're from the government, and we're here to help.
The scariest words ever possibly said. Night, everyone.